justice for all.
Please remain standing in memory of all of our fallen heroes and warriors throughout the country that serve our nation on a daily basis and protect our homeland. Thank you. It's now 7:35 p.m. We open the public hearing for the 2016-2015 Village of Suffern budget. 17, excuse me. 2016-2017 village budget. Do we have anyone that would like to speak?
I'm Zodan, 249 Parkside Drive. Tom Zodan, 249 Parkside Drive, Suffern, New York. Good evening, Mayor and Board.
Good evening.
So I have the tentative budget that was published. Have there been any changes?
We are currently working on the changes, yes.
Oh, all right. So if I bring something up that's already been changed, just let me know. Thank you. A couple things. We have in the revenue for CHIPS, $112,500. Now, CHIPS is a reimbursable, so where is the expense related to that item in the budget?
The reimbursable expense for the CHIPS fund?
Yep.
Mike, can you elaborate on that, on the CHIPS fund?
As you know, there's a number of CHIPS years that we haven't actually cashed in over the past few years, and there are some amounts that we are going to be providing for in the street department, work that has been done under the CHIPS program. So the money's going to reimburse that.
Okay.
Just making sure that the expenses have been either incurred or are going to be, in the budget. In terms of the pilot funds that we received, we have pilots for Avon, a pilot, what we call a pilot for the Salvation Army, and we have the new pilot for the Orange Avenue project. Based on past history, you have a number in there, $180,000. It doesn't seem to accurately reflect the aggregate of the pilots. So could you just let me know what's in that number, $180,000?
For all the revenue that came in under the $180,000?
Yeah.
That's what you're looking for?
Yeah.
Mike, you better stand up there.
Because the Avon should have gone up a couple thousand this year, right?
The two pilots that are included under pilots in the budget are the Avon pilot and the Orange Avenue Associates pilot. The other amounts, as was properly noted, are not true pilots. That says Gitlow, and there's an amount in there, Salvation Army, which are not true pilots but are voluntary contributions. Those are coming in under another area of the budget on the revenue side for miscellaneous. The HCBA is, no, that's something different. That's a host community benefit payment that's being made also by the new development.
Orange Avenue.
Orange Avenue. But it's in the miscellaneous area in terms of the contributions. So it's, let's see.
What page are you on there, Mike?
Well, I'm going to find it for you in a moment.
Okay.
Well, first, let's start with the pilots. The payment in lieu of taxes, that's on page 15. The payment in lieu of taxes is the first item that you can see there. And yes, that's $155,509. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you got the wrong one.
Oh, sorry, wrong budget. Let me have a quick look at it.
Oh, it's the one, yeah.
It's 180.
Yeah. The $180,000, I'm sorry, I had the wrong budget in front of me. Here we go. Payment in lieu of taxes, page 17. And the payment in lieu of taxes is $180,302. The other money that we had is for the other fees that we received. Yeah, bear with me for a moment when I pull that up.
Was this mine?
Yes.
Oh, I see it. It's in other public safety, 1589, that's on, again, on page 17.
This is Esther Gitlow.
And the other public safety is the Esther Gitlow payment that we have. That is actually an agreement with Esther Gitlow Towers. If you read the agreement, it says for public safety services. So that's where that $20,000 is going.
So then this is of the three items.
That's correct.
The Avon, the Orange Avenue, and Salvation Army.
Well, Salvation Army is going in under other miscellaneous revenues. Miscellaneous gifts and donations here, $15,000 on page 19.
Okay. Then we have in the DPW administration, we have salaries for clerical, part-time, $15,000, and then we have an additional $15,000 for another clerical. Are we hiring?
Right, no, we were addressing that. That seems like to be a double entry, I believe. Mike, is that correct on the,
That is actually a consideration of the board to make a part-time position full-time. That additional amount was in there. It's not a funded position at the moment, but it's in the, under the condition that the board wanted to hire a full-time, make someone a part-time into a full-time position.
I mean, what would have changed this year that's different from the last 10, 12 years that would necessitate? What has changed in this year coming forward, as opposed to the last 12 years, that would necessitate making it a full-time position?
that was something that we were discussing, and it's still under evaluation.
Okay.
So the changes all haven't been put into the budget.
Okay. And then in the DPW, there's now a little history. Over the last 15 years, there's always been like 13 or 14 people in the DPW. That's exclusive of the solid waste department. And back in June of 2014, the supervisor of the DPW got transferred to the water department and then subsequently retired, quit, whatever. And so in October, what the board did was they had an agreement that they wouldn't replace this person. and
I'm sorry, they wouldn't want to what?
wouldn't replace the person who had left.
Okay.
So the DPW was short one gentleman.
Okay.
And it was agreed that between the new supervisor and the superintendent of public works and the then president of the union, that those three gentlemen would pick up the slack for that person that left, and the village wouldn't have to replace them. And for doing this, they gave the president of the union a 10% raise, they gave the supervisor of the DPW a 10% raise, and they gave the superintendent a $10,000 raise. This was October 2013, it's in the board minutes. So it was agreed between the superintendent, the board, the union, that they would go without, a 13th employee. Well, now this budget has 14 employees. Last year we had 12. Are we increasing the number of employees? And if so, why?
Well, I have the Manning chart here, and if you're going with the street maintenance department, and Mr. Zawicki, if you would like to clarify it also, is I believe we have 12 in the street maintenance department. And you're saying 14
There's 14 in the budget.
in the budget?
All right, let me get the...
Take it to the mic, Mike.
As far as I know, the manpower is down over what it's been in the last number of years. And I know there is a vacant spot or a spot that was not filled from last year and is left blank. But in terms of the manpower, I don't believe that what Mr. Zordan is saying is accurate, based on the fact that the manpower is lower than what it's been in most recent years. We haven't hired anybody.
Yeah, right, it's 12 now, and I'm saying it was 13, it used to be either 13 or 14, and then they agreed that it would be down to 13 when they did this in October of 2013.
Okay, so what are you saying the number is now?
It's in the budget, it's budgeted for 14 people.
I don't believe that. I don't know. I mean, that's based on what I went through the budget. Manpower is down from what it was.
If you would like to look at the list, I have the Manning list here that you created for the budget, so you could get a better idea of the people that were transferred in and out of the street department. Just to clarify it.
All right, on this list, this is an active list of the street department employees. There's 12 on this list. And the solid waste has 6 employees. So again, street department 12, and the solid waste has 6.
And I'm agreeing that there is 12 in the current year's budget, but in the budget going forward, it's budgeted for 14. There's 14 line items with salaries. That's what I'm saying.
Well, they're not, sometimes the way that is set up.
No, but if you put this in this
only 12
budget...
employees. There's only 12.
I know,
Yeah.
but if you put it in the budget here, even if you don't hire them, you still got to raise the taxes. It's 14.
Well, this one here is not being filled. There's a labor position that's not being filled. You can see that, right? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 11. Well, I don't know. I mean, I can only say that, based on our number of employees, maybe this needs to be reviewed again. I'm not sure.
I actually have the same note here in my book, Mr. Zordan, just so that you're aware that, I do see the 14 people, and we have 12 that are assigned, so we will look deeper into that and into the budget.
Yeah, well, just to make it clear, we have no plans to hire anybody, so.
That's true. Can I have that list back, please? I'm sorry.
Well, if we're not going to hire them, we should take it out of the budget, right?
Definitely, we'll explore that.
Because the other, and conversely, if you had 12 employees and you went to 14, why would you raise the overtime from 60 to 95? You know, increase it by over 50%. Right? If you
Right.
got more manpower, you don't need more overtime. Okay, let's see what else I got here. The pension is being amortized, right?
Pension for 2016-17? We're not intending on amortizing a portion of the pension, no.
Then how'd it go down over almost $400,000 or $500,000 in total?
The question was whether or not the pension for 2016-17 is amortized. The answer to that is no, and neither was the pension for 2015 and 16. That's the current fiscal year we're in. In 2014-15, the village was short of cash to pay its retirement bill. As a result of that, they had to raise the money to pay not only for the pension, but for the interest that had accrued through the month of July, which is the new fiscal year, meaning this fiscal year. So this year's budget, 2015-16, included the amount that was required to pay not only the pension from 2014-15, plus the accrued interest on that pension. And so that is why the 2015-16 was significantly higher than the 2016-17.
There's a lot of interest, but it's good that it's going down and it's not being amortized. We have a police officer, very fine gentleman. He, I believe he's working for the Rockland County Narcotics Task Force. I don't know if it's a 2-year commitment. So, well, the question is if he's going to go back again next year, then I don't see the reimbursement in the budget. So that's something for you guys to think about, because that's what, 70 grand plus whatever overtime, you know? So if we're going to send...
Sure, if we vouch for the, Chief, you speak about vouchering for the reimbursement for the drug task force.
No, it's no problem. I was going to say, just real quickly, I just want to give you an update. We have one of our detectives assigned as a supervisor, a group supervisor, to the Rockland County Narcotics Task Force. The task force pays any overtime costs incurred, and at our disposal, we have I think a 12 to 14-man team that's available, that's handling narcotics investigations throughout the county, as well as being that Detective Fennessy is assigned there. Obviously, from our department, we utilize their resources heavily in the village of Suffern with undercover operations to target drug dealing in the village. So basically, we get the overtime reimbursed, the village pays a salary, and we do get a very good service from them.
So they reimburse us the overtime fee, just so everyone knows, and is there any other additional reimbursement?
The first year, yes, they gave us a detective differential, the difference between a top-grade patrolman and the detective, which I believe was $11,900, and they gave us that money in addition as well.
Great.
80,000 plus overtime. 70, 11.
Well, they don't, no, just make it real clear, I should have clarified that. Tom, just so, and the board and the public, no department anywhere in the county, we all have officers assigned, is receiving a reimbursement like we used to receive. They used to receive half the salary or full salary. No department receives it. However, now that we have an officer assigned full-time there, we will be entitled to any seizure funds from any narcotics, organized crime, major investigations that the county has. We will get a piece of that seizure money as well.
We get that due to the fact that we have an officer assigned there.
That's correct. Now, if we didn't have anybody there, we would not be part of it, correct?
Okay, great, thank you.
Now, we're doing the budget, but this is about the water fund. Can I talk about that now or on the next hearing?
You want to wait until the next hearing for the water hearing?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak?
Paul Gerard, 2 Cross Street. Looking at this budget, while we are flat overall in expenditures, Last year, we took, what did it end up being, 16% increase? Is that what it was?
Yes, 16.8. Am I on?
And some of that was to cover some one-time expenses. Notably, we had a couple of contract buyouts with some police officers.
Yes.
And I do see the number coming down here, about $400,000 on employee benefits. However, those dollars have been absorbed amongst all the other categories in this budget. I would expect that unless we are taking, where we have things that were one-time expenses last year, we do have a huge problem with the debt that we're carrying. I would have expected to see us attacking some of that debt and bringing that down, but the commentary in the budget says that the debt is going up $500,000. So that's very disappointing when we're talking about the need for having to be very tight and very frugal with some of our expenditures. I see that when I look on page 8, I see contractual under appropriations. There's a line here that says contractual expenditures, and they're going up from 2.2 million to 2.5. Could we see some detail on what these things are for? Because I don't understand why we would go up, for example, I don't know if there is an attorney in here that we're going to pay $4,000 a month to sell water rates like we talked about last year. I can't see it. So
Okay.
is there any of that detail going to be made available to us?
Mike, on the contractual expenses, is my mic working here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, throughout the budget, on the pages that follow, those summary pages in the front, there are various lines for every department, and one of the lines is called contractual expenditures. I'll note that in the contractual expenditures, the contingent account, we put a sufficient amount in that. It's $200,000 versus $60,000, so that's $140,000 of that money. But the rest of it, you can see, if you went through the individual contractual lines in the pages to see which ones went up and which ones went down. And we can easily provide you more detail down to a very granular level if you'd like that, for any particular lines.
Well, it would be interesting to know what the entire 2.5 million is covering. I mean, it's not just the changes, but, I mean, I think we should be poking holes in some of those numbers and seeing if they're,
The overall $2.5 million in the budget.
yeah. I mean, one of my questions was the contingency and whether or not we needed it that big. I don't know what we've been experiencing the last couple of years.
Well, contingencies are for emergency use, what's necessary, instead of going out to bond or loan money, something on a smaller scale. Is that correct, Mike?
That is correct. It's for the unexpected and unforeseen situations you may have of a drop in a revenue, for instance, or a increase in an expenditure that you didn't expect to have. A bad winter, for instance, that sort of thing.
Okay. I thought last meeting, we talked about being able to go over the 2% property tax levy in order to cover some of those unforeseen expenses. So now, is this a second vehicle to cover expenses that might be unforeseen? Just trying to understand, because that point was brought up at the last meeting.
Yeah, actually, this might be a good point or in time to kind of explain what the real meaning of the 2% property tax levy cap is. And I'll try to give an analogy that maybe makes it easier to understand, because believe me, even for finance professionals, it's difficult to understand. The legislation was not about keeping the tax rate at 2% or less in terms of an increase. It was about keeping the tax levy, the amount you have to raise, to provide the services in taxes, and by raising that amount. So let me give you a very good example of this. Let's assume that you have 4 people renting out an apartment, they're sharing the rent. It's $1,200 a month total. So each person's kicking in $300 a month rent. So imagine that the $1,200 is the tax levy. That's the amount that you need in terms of money. And the people that are paying into the rent are what we call our taxable assessed values, your value of your house that has then become taxable. If one of the people were to leave the group and they didn't find a replacement and they still had to rent the apartment and it was still $1,200, the individual rent paid by the people would now go from $300 to $400. There would be a 25% increase, I'm sorry, a 33% increase in the amount that they have to pay. And nothing else changed. The rent didn't change, the benefits they got from the apartment didn't change. Nothing changed except that one person left. If you look at our 2016-17 tentative budget, we are actually below the very low tax cap of 0.12%. We're about $30,000 below the tax cap. Yet our tax rate increase is 5.7%. So how did that happen? Very simply, for the most part, with the loss of Novartis and $5 million of assessed valuation, and an additional $2.5 million of assessed valuation in other tax judgments and claims against us, our total assessed valuation dropped. We lost somebody worth $7.5 million. And because of that, our tax rate, even though our tax levy went up very little, the tax rate had to go up 5.7% in the tentative budget. Now, I'll make one other comment about that. And that is that if we had left everything else the same, this tentative budget exactly as it was presented, and we had kept our assessed valuations just on par with where they were last year, we didn't lose anything, we would have had a tax rate increase of 0.2%, 0.2%. But unfortunately, it didn't work out that way. So that's the best way I can explain what happens with a tax levy. And so not to be misled by the tax levy cap, it's a cap on the levy, not the tax rate. And believe me, that causes a lot of confusion for a lot of people, even people that are very familiar with finances in government. Thank you.
And like I said, I mean, I'm pleased that the overall expenditures didn't go up, but knowing that we were starting off with $400,000 from last year's budget that we're not going to have to pay next year, I would expect us to be in a position to not have to absorb that entire assessed value loss that we got with Novartis. And that's why I'm asking about these contractual costs going up 13% or $300,000. And as the previous gentleman brought up, we have extra headcount in here that doesn't make sense. We brought it up in the street department, so it sounds like some of those dollars will be coming out, or should be. The contingency fund you brought up, bringing up $120,000 or $140,000. How much did we save this year on snow removal?
The actual savings?
Yeah.
As compared to,
From the budget?
from last year, from the budget? I'm not sure.
I mean, I would think that there's money there, unless that's going somewhere this year that we haven't been told about or aren't aware that there's an issue. The listing of the police headcount, it looks like that's going up, one by a part-time dispatcher, but several of the other positions, the increases are quite substantial. Are these all contractual increases?
Yes.
And why is the overtime going up from 180 to 225?
Last year, we had reduced the overtime from, I believe, 240 to 180. This year, we're currently at around 210, and we expect a couple of, well, another 20,000. So it'll put us around 230.
I'm sorry, did we explain, when the last gentleman spoke, about the overtime increase in the street department? With the, I guess, right now, well, my question was going to be, the overtime's going up and the head count's also going up, but the head count, I guess, is going to come out, but is that running over as well, from 60 to 95?
Well, we also, similar circumstances, what we did last year. The actual, Mike, do we have the actual detail on the overtime for the street department?
I don't have it handy at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah, just to expand on what you're saying, Mayor, you're right. I mean, the spending pattern for overtime over the prior 3 years, we've looked at that, and we also understand there was a heavy winter or two in there, but the fact of the matter is that the overtime for the police and for the street department traditionally has been higher than what was budgeted in 2015-16, and that's what we're addressing with this budget. One other point I'm going to note out to everyone is that as part of our, and you mentioned debt going up dramatically, and that main reason is because we are getting the deficit financing that we had lobbied for and had the special legislation approved for, so that we could eliminate the deficits in the three funds at least, the water, sewer general, and to whatever extent the capital projects fund. And with that, it means that we have to pay debt service payments over the next 10 years to make that happen. Part of that arrangement and agreement, and part of the legislation, requires us to provide the state comptroller with reviews. One of those reviews is the budget. The state comptroller's office has been in here, and they've finished up the field work on the review of the 2016-17 budget. Some of the items that they look at are things like this, which speaks to a spending pattern as opposed to what you simply put on a piece of paper. So we're expecting a letter from the state comptroller soon. From what we understand, they found the budget to be reasonable, and once again, we'll wait for the official letter from them, but we didn't anticipate, and we don't see any problems that they've addressed with us in terms of the budget. So I just want to make that note, because you're absolutely correct. There's a lot of items, as you look through the budget, you might see an increase here or something different, and that you're not used to seeing. The fact of the matter is, we looked at this budget very carefully, and our spending patterns over the last few years to make sure it's as realistic as possible.
Mike, isn't it also true that with the DEC consent order, with regard to the wastewater treatment improvements, that too had to be bonded?
Well, it did, but that affects the sewer rate more than it doesn't affect the tax rate directly.
Okay.
But once again, it's the, mainly in the general fund with the tax rate, it is the deficit financing that's incurred for the first year of it that bumps that up in that fashion.
So is this going to be the only public hearing on the budget, or is there going to be any follow-ups based on some of the things that have been brought up tonight?
Well, we're going to, hear the rest of the audience, any more people that would like to comment, and we'll make a decision.
Okay. There's a maintenance supervisor position that was doubled in cost, $50,000 to $103,000. Under water fund? Oh, I'm sorry, that's the next hearing, isn't it? Is that, am I myself on that one?
Hope so.
Should we include that in this hearing? We could touch on it. I believe it's an easy answer. It's for an employee that was, I believe, Mike, can you elaborate on that? Is that for the employee? Or Charles?
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
Yeah, there was, that's okay, no, that's fine, that's what I'm here for. Yeah, that's for an employee that last year was expected to retire.
Right.
In a portion of the year and did not retire. So we're
Funding him for the whole year.
funding him for the whole year, and should he decide to retire sometime mid-year, it just means that there's extra money in that fund.
So the actual spending was more than budgeted.
Yes, yes.
Curbside solid waste, we had mechanical equipment operator 2. That doubled also from 35 to 73.
I'm gonna have to take a look at that. 35, curbside. Charles, are you aware of that?
I'm looking at it, I think it's Scott Brown, Mr. Scott Brown retired, and he only put in for the original last year. And now he's replacing, he's probably going to retire year. I think that's,
Is that the move that came out of the street department? Did you transfer someone from the street department to curbside?
yes.
To account for that extra person?
The street department to solve.
Okay.
Mayor, if I may make a suggestion, since there's a lot of questions about the staffing, perhaps my office could go through the staffing and pick out anybody that has a significant change from one year to the next, and not, without mentioning any names, of course, just identify why the amount's changed or the number of people staffed has changed.
Okay. We'll do that.
Then on the capital side of things, can't find it here. I think there was some monies put in for resurfacing. Is that any particular project? I'm kind of hoping you say Lafayette Avenue, but
Lafayette Avenue is going to be resurfaced.
Thank
The
you.
entire length, yes.
all right.
So is Orange.
Yeah, that's not in here, that's the state though, right?
Okay.
Okay. What's that?
They're both state.
They're both the state?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Alfred D'Ambrosio, 4 Cross Street, Suffern, New York. Good to see you, gentlemen, ladies, and our friends in the audience. It's dealing with the budget, but I'm curious because I heard things discuss surfacing, resurfacing, and improvements to our town. In such case, we'll say Lafayette Avenue. And I happened to take a walk down there today because it was a spring day and I felt inclined. And I noticed something that had been bothering me, but I couldn't put my finger on it until I took a walk down. And that was to spend or not to spend, and why, dealing with our streetlights. In such case, we have shorty streetlights, and we have full-grown streetlights on Lafayette Avenue from the post office per se, I guess that's Chestnut Street and going to the right, if we were looking there. And I counted on one block an example of, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 lights. And on that street, I noticed, these are all shorty lights. Most of them weren't working, but I'll put it down this way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 were not working, 2 were working. And then on the other side of the street, counting only the shorty lights, there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 lights, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them were broken, and I guess 1, 2, 3, 4 were not broken. So my point of saving money, or spending money, I noticed all of the tall lights, or most of them, were working. They were good. But I've noticed, I can't say for sure that it's all vandalism, but I think it is. Most of these shorty lights are very vulnerable to breakage. And the question is, since they're structured like two trees, you go about 3 feet up, and you have a basic base going down for a root structure of attachment, and then all the way up is either the regular tall one, which means it can just be placed on top of that, or you have this modified little stub, which looks very cute, but is very vulnerable and is all broken constantly. So I'm concerned we may save money if we just have trees that don't break, tall ones. The lighting is very good on them, by the way, I noticed that, versus these short ones that are constantly being either hurt by trucks or vandals. Vandals is a nice word for saying people who make mistakes or who are angry at each other and make mistakes. And the end result is saving the budget if we buy something that is already there, the tall ones, get the remainder tall, because this might have been an experimental thing that didn't work, the shorties. I think I like the idea of big trees, or I should say big lights, that won't be toppled over and will save a lot of money. That depends on the cost of these things. If they're cheap, well then fine, you can always just repair them. But if they're expensive, you might save a lot on the budget. That's my thoughts on the matter, gentlemen and ladies.
Thank you.
How we doing tonight? Michael Curley, 84 Orange Avenue, Suffern, New York. I just wanted to get, when we talked about earlier about the task force and whether there's a reimbursement or not, I personally wouldn't care if there was we would love a reimbursement, or if you get one, or how it works, but I wouldn't care if you did or didn't get one anyway. It's a very powerful organization in the county, a police organization. We're using all the different towns, the district attorney's office, and all these things to watch out for crime. And with the growth of heroin in our community, I think it's strong. I'm sure most of you do read the papers, you'll see that there has been arrests recently. You just may not realize that it's the county narcotics task force assisting with Suffern to make those arrests, all right? And heroin has been one of the major things that they've worked on here, okay? They worked on organized crime, but I like them to stay away from me too. Joke, all right? But my main thing is in reference to if there's some way with different savings that you may see here, a problem that I feel is there with the town of Ramapo and Chris St. Lawrence. And I feel, as I said and stood here not too long ago, I'm confident in telling you he will be arrested, you know, whether shortly or the latest date I'll give you is June 1, and I'll take action on that, legal action that is, okay? But I still feel that when he's there, it was never Chris St. Lawrence singly that was the person that did all these things. It was the town board and the forces behind them, okay? So do not be fooled by when he gets arrested, right? I mean, have a couple drinks, but don't have too many, right? Because the situation still exists, okay? And I'd like to, and I know, Mr. Kraushaar, and I say this honestly, I know you're a good land use attorney, okay? But I think we should consider having money set aside, whether it's for you to do extra hours or for an outside firm to be ready to go to fight, because town of Ramapo still will try to take over things, whether I'm hoping, as you all are, that an outside person comes and buys it, all right? But I still stand by my opinion, we should have an LDC ready with a joint venture, okay? Just to protect the village. You know, we took $500,000 hit, really, you know, and it actually, we because of the police department, the different buyouts, that number coming down, whatever else, we'll survive it. okay? But I think it's something that we should consider. Again, I'll say this, I know you're a land use attorney and you're good at it, which is going to help us, but you're going to have a lot of forces against you, okay? Now, I'll take time off and help you, but I don't know, we still may not have enough help there, okay? So I just would like you to consider having money ready to go on that. And I don't like spending money. I'm not here saying we need to spend money, okay? The other thing I noticed is that the chief of police and the police department took a zero. They're not taking a raise. And that bothers me because the last 10 years he promised me to buy me lunch. Now I know I'm never getting that lunch, okay? So have a nice day. Thank you. All right?
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak? Anyone? No? Okay.
Motion.
A motion to close the public hearing?
Motion.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Public hearing is closed.
Not that I want to speak the obvious, but the board will not be adopting this budget tonight in its present form. There will be changes. I personally think some of these comments were great, and this is the whole purpose of having a public hearing, and to have as many eyes looking at these documents as possible, and I appreciate the comments that were made personally.
Hold on, Dan.
I wasn't watching the tape. Okay.
Okay, what I'm going to recommend, and the board can totally reject my recommendation, is that when the amendments that I'm really not saying anything too interesting, but my recommendation is going to be that prior to the adoption of the budget, that some spreadsheet be done which shows the changes that will be made to this tentative budget that was reviewed by the public tonight, line by line, whatever lines are being changed or removed or what have you, and then ultimately, what the board would be adopting, and that would have to be done prior to April 29th?
Yes.
Or on April 29th, I think?
April 29th.
Yeah, April 29th is the last day. Is the budget, the tentative budget with the amendments. That would constitute.
Just explain, we don't know what the crackling is.
We don't know what the crackling is. Sorry.
Okay, I'm done.
Okay. Public hearing for the water.
Okay, it is now 8:23. We're going to open up the public hearing on the water rates. Do I have a motion?
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Please, does anyone have any comments on the water rates in the budget?
Good evening again. First of all, I did a little calculation here, and based on this simple math, based on the need of estimated water sales of $1,952,200, you divide that by the number of expected units to be sold, that would mean that the water rate should be $3.32, not $3.35. That was just my quick math. Now, if they change the additional salary in the superintendent's budget, part of that gets allocated to the water fund and the sewer fund, so there'll be a slight reduction there. I think they get about 25% each. Then, we have now, let's step back. We borrowed money to pay off the deficits, so therefore they're covered. Now, we have in the water fund a line item contingency, okay? And that is $200,000. Now, I don't know what expenses we would incur in the water fund that would lead us to need $200,000. Originally, this contingency kind of thing was set up, and it was, like a pseudo expense, and it was used to help reduce the deficit. So anyway, what I'm suggesting is that if we were to reduce this $200,000 contingency thing to $117,600, we would have a zero increase in our water rate. So I'm saying decrease it by $82,400, and that would mean we wouldn't have to increase the water rate. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike, based on his calculation and the water usage, the amount estimated to be sold and the calculation, is that correct?
Yes, within a rounding number, yes, sir.
Okay, so we round it up. Does anyone else have any comment? So please take notice. I'm going to close the public hearing at this time. Have a motion?
Motion to close.
Have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
You want a minute? So in front of me, the Village of Suffern, local law amending the Chapter 261 of the Code of the Village of Suffern regarding water rates. Being enacted by the Board of Trustees of the Village of Suffern as follows. Section 1, Section 261-15 of the Code of the Village of Suffern is hereby amended to provide as follows, effective June 1st, 2016. Water rates will be charged as follows. For consumers within the village, for the first 10 units or fraction thereof, $35 minimum charge. For a portion over 10 units and less than 71 units, $3.35 per unit. For that portion over 70 units, $3.83 per unit. For consumers outside the village limits, for the first 10 units or a fraction thereof, $60. For that portion over 10 units, $4.89 per unit. Section 2, the village board may, in the further, amend the water rates provided herein by resolution. 3, this local law shall take effect immediately upon filing with the Secretary of State. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Yeah. now 8:30. Going to open the public hearing for sewer rates, sewer rents. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
Motion.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Public hearing is now open on sewer rents. Does anyone have any comment?
I think the rate is going to be a 14% increase. What's the increase on the sewer?
Hold on one second. Mike, do you have it in front of you?
14.1.
I think if you could go back and either sharpen your pencils or get an eraser or find a way to take the hit to the residents a little bit easier, between the other things, and, after the big tax increase last year, and it's a lot. And if we go back to last year's minutes, if you read your own words, you hear yourself said the same thing, all right?
Yes.
And I understand sometimes we have to do things to get somewhere, but if we could do it a little bit slower to help the people, okay? As from 4 or 5 mayors now, I've stood up here, laughed, begged, cried to try to sell the water, to try to offset even though maybe you can't mix them in, so you can offset so the damage on the sewer isn't high. The sewer rates, all right? Like, if you get an increase on one and not the other, it isn't as bad, you might say, all right? But if you could go and try to look at it, because when it's overall, when you look at, and I understand in government we have to do things sometimes, and we're getting back and where we need to be, but it's a lot for people. It makes a difference on whether they can go out to a movie or something. So if there's just something you could go back and consider for the people. I know last time it was mentioned, I think, a couple months ago, by Mr. Morris, they were now looking into selling the water, okay? I've been asking for 4 or 5 mayors now to sell that extra water, okay? And it could be 9 years now, all right? And that was my fight against Chris St. Lawrence. That's who I was fighting, all right? But I was a Lone Ranger then, okay? As sometimes I am now. But I would respect if you just go back and either, and I understand it might look better for the state and may look better than that, but people have to survive now, and it's tough out there. And I know you all know that yourselves, so thank you for your time, all right?
You're welcome.
Al D'Ambrosio, 4 Cross Street, Suffern. This is just I guess we'll say, not a mea culpa. It's a way of saying sometimes we have to bite the bullet. It took more than 2 years to get into this little bit of mess that we've gotten into in the past to the present, but we're working our way out. If I have to eat a little bit less or miss a movie, at this time, I'm not going to ask for a premature solution. I am going to say yes, I believe you're working on it, and I understand Curly's point, but I'll bite the bullet and give you guys time to work it out the correct way as you see fit. So I won't see any movies. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Al.
There's nothing good out anyway.
Jim Genatino, 2 Memorial Drive. I understand why this rate is going up. I don't know if the public understands the millions and millions of dollars that have been spent on the wastewater treatment plant, and we're not done. So if we keep putting it off, we will wind up in the same situation that we were in the last 2 or 3 years. I'm not looking forward to the increase. I don't think anybody is. But it's better than having, in 3 or 4 more years, to borrow another $5 million to get out of a hole.
Thank you.
Paul Gerard, 2 Cross Street. My concerns under the budget, under the general fund, the same as here. I honestly, after what we just spoke about the first one, I didn't expect that we might pass one but not the other? I mean, because the concerns voiced earlier by everybody, I think they apply to the water and they apply to the sewer. I think we should, you know, as Mike said, sharpen our pencils a little bit. We don't have a contingency fund here, and it's probably because we're already raising the sewer rate double digit, so, but you can't have it both ways. You can't say that we need a contingency fund over here, but we can't afford to put one in over here, so we won't do it. Let's not put in fluff just because the rate looks palatable. Okay? Thank you.
You're welcome. Would anyone else from the public like to speak? It's time to make a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion.
8:35. Have a motion?
Motion.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. This time I'd like to offer a resolution from the Village of Suffern, a local law amending Chapter 261 of the Code of the Village of Suffern regarding water rents. Hold on, sorry.
There you go.
At this time, I'd like to read the local law amending Chapter 220 of the Code of the Village of Suffern regarding sewer rents. Be it enacted by the Board of Trustees of the Village of Suffern as follows. Section 22-44 of the Code of the Village of Suffern is hereby amended to provide as follows. The sewer rent shall be established and may be changed by local law following a public hearing. Thereon, the sewer rate shall be $7.93 per 100 cubic feet of water consumed for properties located within the village. A minimum sewer rent shall be $25 per billing period, amended 4/2/2012. The Board of Trustees may allow properties located outside the corporate limits of the Village of Suffern to access and utilize the village sewage system if it is determined that all aspects of the system possesses sufficient excess capacity. If it is subsequently determined that any aspect of the system is insufficient, the village may terminate such outside village access upon such notice as the Board of Trustees deems to be reasonable. Such outside users shall be charged at the rate of $8.61 per 100 cubic feet of water used, as reflected on the bill provided by their water supplier. Such users shall provide copies of such water bills to the village clerk within 5 days of receipt of the same in order for the village to calculate the applicable sewer rent. If the outside user fails to do so, the village will render an estimated sewer rent. If such outside user fails to provide such water bill upon demand, the village may terminate service upon 30 days written notice. In any event, the minimum bill chargeable to an outside user shall be $25 per billing period. This local law shall take effect immediately upon filing with the Secretary of State.
No, there's a paragraph that's missing. I don't know what. Section 2, the village board may, in the future, amend the sewer rates provided herein by resolution. I don't know why.
Okay.
Then, Section 3, this local law shall take effect immediately upon filing with the Secretary of State.
Hold on. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. This is the right one.
I'll make you copy, too.
Just so you know, we got a resolution on the bond that has to be taken care of tonight. Okay. For the sewer improvements.
It's now 8:40. I would like to open a public hearing for the local law authorizing a property tax levy in excess of the limits established in the General Municipal Law 3C. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Would anyone from the public like to speak in regards to authorizing a property tax levy in the excess of the limit established by general municipal law?
Mr. Mayor, if I can make a recommendation before we hear from the public, if we could hear from Mr. Janito as to the efficacy of why a municipality, regardless of whether they intend to go through the cap or not, would undertake the consideration of the adoption of this local law.
Thank you. The local law to override the property tax cap is something that a municipality must do prior to adoption of the budget if in fact it overrides the property tax levy amount that's prescribed in law by the state. If they fail to do that, if they fail to adopt a local law to do that, and in fact they do override the tax cap, then they're in violation of the law and certain standards must be taken into effect, among them reserving a certain amount of your tax levy and setting it aside and not being able to spend it. So why did I recommend to the board that they adopt this local law prior to adopting the budget, even if the budget appears to be below the tax cap? The reason for that is that under the advice of some very highly respected professional associations in the state of New York, you can adopt this local law and you can still adopt a budget below the tax cap. And there's no problem with that. And you can repeal that local law later if you want to, even though it really had no effect on your budget. However, if by some chance the formula that we depended upon has either changed or wasn't fully understood when we developed it and determined we were below the tax levy cap, and we in fact adopted a budget that was over that cap and didn't have the local law in place, we'd be subject to those violations of the law and all the situations that would put us in. So this is really just a matter of belts and suspenders, if you will. And I'll refer to John Wayne, who once said that I never trust a man who doesn't trust his belt. But belts and suspenders is just an extra way of making sure that we have this under control. And in the event that we don't adopt a budget that was within the cap, then we would not be in violation of the law. Once again, the tentative budget is about $30,000 below the cap, and we don't expect that the board would adopt a budget at this point that would be above the cap, barring any unforeseen situation that we have no control of that might pop up in the next week or so before the budget is actually adopted. And just for the public's note, the budget must be adopted by law on or before April 30th of this year.
Thank you. Did we close the public hearing?
Yeah, we didn't close it.
No.
Nobody spoke in favor.
Okay. So we opened it. Does anyone from the public wish to speak regarding the property tax levy cap? Motion to close the public hearing?
Motion.
I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. I offer the following: a local law authorizing a property tax levy in excess of the limit established in General Municipal Law, Section 3C. Section 1, legislative intent is the intent of the local law to allow Village of Suffern to adopt a budget for the fiscal year ending May 31st, 2017, that requires a real property tax levy in excess of the tax levy limit as defined by General Municipal Law, Section 3C. Section 2, the authority. This local law is adopted pursuant to Subdivision 5 of the General Municipal Law, Section 3C, which expressly authorizes a local government's governing body to override the property tax cap for the coming fiscal year by the adoption of a local law approved by a vote of 60% of said governing body. Section 3, tax levy limit override. The Board of Trustees of the Village of Suffern, County of Rockland, is hereby authorized to adopt the budget for the fiscal year ending May 31st, 2017, that requires a real property tax levy in excess of the amount otherwise prescribed in General Municipal Law, Section 3C. Section 4, severability. If a court determines that any clause, sentence, paragraph, subdivision, or part of this local law or application thereof to any person, firm, or corporation or circumstance is invalid or unconstitutional, the court's order or judgment shall not affect, impair, or invalidate the remainder of this local law, but shall be confined in its operation to the clause, sentence, paragraph, subdivision, or part of this local law, or in its application to the person, individual, firm, or corporation, or circumstance directly involved in the controversy in which such judgment or order shall be rendered. This local law shall take effect immediately upon filing with the Secretary of State. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Can we do a roll call on this?
Mr. Morris?
Yes.
Mr. Hagen?
Yes.
Ms. Hertzman?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Motion passes. Excuse me.
On time if we were in Central Time.
It's now 8:45. I'd like to open the public hearing for 175 Lafayette Avenue, change zoning of certain property from PO 40 to MR 50. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Good evening.
Evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the board. My name is Paul Baum. I'm the attorney for the applicant. Since the commencement of this public hearing at last month, we returned to the planning board on March 16th, and I believe they've sent a more detailed recommendation to the board. We've also submitted a letter to the board that encompassed the comments that we heard from the board members of the public at the last meeting, and it, tried to address all those issues. We're here tonight to respond to any other comments. We have our engineer, our architect, and our traffic consultant. So if there's any questions we can answer, we'll be glad to do it.
Okay. Before we open it to the public, one of the concerns that the board raised and I raised at the first public hearing was that the recommendation by the planning board on the zone change petition for this subject property was bereft of detail. So, as the applicant's attorney has stated, they did return to the planning board. We received, or at least the board members received, and I got a copy today of a letter from the Assistant Village Attorney, Robert Magrino. I'll read this into the record. Dear Village Board members, the Planning Board reviewed the 175 Lafayette Avenue LLC zone change request attached as a memo from the Planning Board, with its comments for the proposed zone change. Please contact me if you have any questions regarding the memo or would like to discuss further. Thank you. Robert Magrino. Memo is to the mayor and the Board of Trustees from Paul Gdansky, Chairman of the Village Planning Board, with regard to this zone change. The Planning Board has reviewed the proposed zone change application of 175 Lafayette LLC for the premises known as 176 through 186 Lafayette Avenue, tax lot 55.29-1-7. As part of the review, the planning board has received a letter from John Lang, Director of Planning, that's the village's planner, McLaren Engineering, from McLaren Engineering Group, dated January 19, 2016, and reviewed the Rockland County Department of Planning letter dated October 30th, 2015, to the Suffern Village Board. If the application for a zone change is granted, the planning board will conduct a full site plan review in accordance with New York State Village Law and the Village Code. At this time, the planning board offers the following general comments to the village board with respect to the proposed zone change. 1, the proposed zone change from PO 40 to MR 50 would be consistent with existing zoning on neighboring properties located on the north side of Route 59, as well as an MR 50 site that exists just across Route 59 and to the west of the subject property. A zone change to MR 50, therefore, appears to be reasonable at this location. 2, site-specific issues will be addressed during the site plan review. However, it should be noted that the applicant should consider modifications to the entrance-exit to address traffic and site distance concerns. 3, the proposal will require variances from the MR50 bulk requirements, the most significant being for lot development coverage. The village board may wish to consider whether the MR50 bulk requirements, especially with respect to lot development coverage, should be modified. That would be a separate act of the board if they were to do that. There have been recent projects in the MR50 zone that have required variances for exceeding the permitted lot development coverage. Additional consideration should be given to the fact that the recently approved TDD district, that's Transit Development District, which is based on and similar to the MR50 zone, provides for 90% development coverage. 4, given that the current proposal exceeds permitted development coverage in the MR50 zone, additional on-site water retention measures should be considered. That would be a site plan issue for the planning board. The site previously received site plan approval for an office building under existing zoning. The board should have the applicant address whether there is a need for additional housing warranting the change from commercial to residential zoning, and whether the proposed project is in accordance with the best interests of the growth and future development of the village. That concludes the memo from the planning board.
Okay. How would you like to continue?
It's your meeting, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead. Do you have
questions? We'll answer questions if you want to continue the public
Okay.
hearing and take comment from the public.
Would you like to
Happy come
present,
back.
would you like to do a short presentation for the public, and then we'll comment on that?
For what we've addressed since the last meeting, or just the project in general?
Project in general.
Sure. So this project involves the zone change of the property just across from the Salvation Army. It's just west of the existing Esther Gitlow Towers. It's zoned PO 40, professional office. We're looking to change it to the MR 50 zone so that we can develop a 54-unit apartment building. It will consist of 22 one-bedroom apartments and 32 two-bedroom apartments. It'll be about 6 stories high. There'll be 114 parking spaces provided. 66 will be under the building, so that'll be the first 2 floors of the building. Another 48 will be outside. This property is being it used to be approved for an 18,000 square foot office building in 2008. That building was never built for economic reasons. So we're looking to, make good use of this space. We think it's an appropriate zone. Census figures and planning studies have shown that there is a need in the village for new housing stock to accommodate empty nesters and young singles, professionals. It's within a good walking distance to the downtown area. So, I mean, that's basically the project in a nutshell.
Do we have the data? Do you have data to warrant the residential portion of it and the best interest for the village and the growth?
Well, in the narrative that we submitted in support of the petition, we had some information from the census that a planner prepared. If you would like, we can certainly give you more detailed information on the census and the planning rationale to show the need for this type of housing stock in the village. So that's something we'll be more than happy to address.
How about additional on-site water retention measures? I know that's a concern here in the village. Can we address some of that?
Yeah, I mean, we have our engineer, Brian Brooker. He can easily address that issue.
Yes, good evening. Brian Brooker, Brooker Engineering, engineer for the applicant. Brian Brooker, Brooker Engineering, engineer for the applicant. Is that better? Yeah, okay. No? Okay. Is that better? Yeah. Okay. With regard to the stormwater detention, obviously all projects have to meet New York State requirements for reduction in water runoff and for reduction in or enhancement of water quality from projects. The standards are a zero net increase in runoff. Obviously, that can be exceeded if the wishes of the planning board and this board is to provide a project that has a net reduction in runoff, that can be accomplished.
I believe that's what we would be looking, that's what I would be looking for a more than net zero.
Okay.
So that's possible.
Yes. Of course, it's possible. Depends on how much more.
Can you do 25% more? I don't know.
That sounds like a reasonable standard.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. We'd also like to address the entrance and the exit and the site distance concerns.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I mean, we've looked at this many times. It was a concern when this office building was before the village in 2008. To improve the ingress and egress, the stone wall is going to need to be taken back, rebuilt. It'll open up sight distance. It will certainly improve that corridor as you're coming into the village, where I believe the problem is cars stop to make a left-hand turn into Oakdale Manor. As people come around that turn, they don't see it. They're forced to stop very quickly. And these proposed improvements will open up the sight distance. We have Phil Greeley here, our traffic consultant, and he can certainly give you more specifics than I can. So let me introduce to you Phil.
Good evening, Philip Greeley, Macer Consulting. As indicated on the proposed site plan, the stone wall will be moved back as much as 10 feet in areas. So as you're approaching the village heading westbound, as you come down the grade and around the turn, the sight distance will be improved significantly, not only for people leaving this property, but for the traveling public along Lafayette Avenue, along Route 59. So as indicated, the rear end sight distance for vehicles turning onto Oakdale Manor will actually be improved. I think the sight distance would increase approximately 100 feet once we pull that wall back and reconstruct it. The actual offset from where the wall is today varies, but I believe it's as much as 10 feet from its current point set back. There was, as part of the previous proposal for the office building, there was a conceptual approval from New York State DOT for that work. So the same work would be done for this proposed project. I think that's really
So there were no other significant enhancements to the project, or other than what we had in place from a few years ago?
Yes, the other point that was proposed, there will be a left turn lane created, so if you're leaving the village heading eastbound, there would be a left turn movement into the site, so that eastbound traffic could go past a stopped vehicle turning into this project. Again, that was consistent with the previous application.
Now, with there being a left-hand turn lane heading eastbound, coming out of the project, making a left, heading east, would there be an entrance lane into the eastbound lane, if that makes sense?
No.
No.
Exiting the property would not have an acceleration lane, or it would just be the transitional taper, stripe taper, so there will be some additional width, but it's not a separate lane. It's just for coming into the project. So if I'm leaving the village, going to this site, I would have a left turn lane, and if through traffic could bypass me. But leaving the project would have to wait for the gaps in the traffic. There would be some additional area to accelerate, but no separate acceleration lane.
No traffic signal?
No.
Right.
There's not enough traffic to satisfy the warrants for signalization based on DOT criteria.
I got a question. Is there any way to keep that improved sight distance without moving that wall back? I've seen some of the things that said that we could mimic a similar wall to the south, that we can mimic a wall similar to what the Salvation Army put up, which would be lower and would provide a bigger buffer zone and possibly preserve some of the trees there.
Well, I think there's two things that are here. It's the height of the wall, but also the vertical alignment, the horizontal alignment and the vertical. So as you're coming down grade, you're going around the horizontal curve. So even if you lowered the wall, it still impedes the sight line. So I think what's been drawn on the plan creates the proper setback to account for the horizontal alignment. The height of the wall could probably be lowered also, so when it's set back, it could be brought down, but because of the horizontal alignment of the road, you need to shift it back, otherwise you're not going to get that improvement.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, anyone else have any questions?
I just want to note that a full traffic report was submitted to the board. I believe it was reviewed by your traffic consultant, and, you know, we'll be happy to explore other alternatives with the planning board should we get to the site plan phase to, you know, make the best project possible.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the public?
Maybe three questions. I think we're rehashing some material. I appreciate that you gentlemen are here to explain your positions and the possible gain to Suffern and us. I was concerned in the past when we were analyzing the entrance and exit going into that property area, and it was not resolved at that time how you could have easy traffic coming out. I say that because right now you see what 59 is like. It is not easy traversing. It is not, like the gentleman just said, we don't have a problem with traffic. We have a lot of problems with traffic on 59 in that area, especially when you go into the work, I guess we'd say when you go to work and come home for at least an hour. So I was concerned that something that had been mentioned by these gentlemen the last time was that there was property route going through the Gitlow area that was not really utilized. It seemed to be something that could be used to go out a different way, but it was never pursued. And I'm curious if they could elaborate on that piece of stretch which seemed to allow an opportunity to be developed. Somebody has to spend the money on it. Maybe they could think about that. And two, I was concerned about the sewage capacity, this overload or the water overload problems that we might face, because we're dealing with that always, and yet the structure being built, what are the consequences and the impact on Suffern this new positive or question mark gain for us? I'll leave it for you and...
Okay, so you had the two questions there, one for the exiting of traffic through Esther Gitlow?
Yes.
And then the impact on the sewage and the water?
And the water, that's three.
Yes.
Thank you.
That's three. John, can you speak to those points?
John Lang from McLaren Engineering. Generically, as we're reviewing this, we look to see whether there's sufficient water capacity in the system. And Suffern is blessed with a full supply. You only use about 1/3 of the water in your capacity. At the detailed site review time, they'll go through the detailed engineering to look at the pressures to make sure that they can provide the fire protection in that. There's no reason to believe that they can't, so I think we're fine that way. Concerning the exit and the entrance, there is a connection that will go to the Esther Gitlow property, but it'll be for emergency access only. It's probably not a great idea to have that residential traffic going through a senior facility. If it had to be, it could be done, but it's going to be a two-way emergency access that Esther Gitlow will be able to get out should something happen on their site, and we will be able to get out emergency vehicles should something happen on this site. So I think those two are pretty much taken into consideration.
I think he asked about sewer.
I'm sorry?
Sewer.
The sewer plant also has excess capacity, and people who know that site know that you're way uphill, so it's a good run down to the sewage treatment plant from there, so we should be no problem.
Great, thank you.
Good evening, Roy Chudy, 16 Lonigan Drive. Aside from my water concerns, even if there is a 25% upgrade for the flooding that would help add to the problems that we already have, I would still think because of the visibility of that area, you've created an accident-prone condition. And I don't know how many accidents happen right now. I'm sure the chief has that on his documented, how many accidents happen along that way. But coming out of there, making a left onto that turn, even with moving a wall back, the vehicle is still going to have to go out. People coming into the village, I will guarantee you're going to have a few accidents. If you make it that they have to make a right and go down and turn around some way, well, that would be a little bit more feasible. But for making a left out of that position where they're at, I will guarantee with 24 years of police experience, you're going to have accidents there. And God forbid if there's a fatality, make it a right and then work it out, some kind of U-turn down that way. But coming out of there with the vehicles coming into the village, I think that's going to be trouble. Thank you.
Thank you.
Philip Greeley again. As part of the traffic study, your consultant had required us to look at the accident history. There were several rear-end accidents that occurred at Oakdale Manor because of the limited sight distance. So we're actually going to improve that sight distance, number one. Number two, we are providing the left turn lane for people coming into the property. That would...
Can you hold it a minute,
Yes.
please?
Okay. So, and then in terms of traffic coming from the east, heading towards the village, by having that set back, we'll have improved visibility looking eastbound also. I'd also like to point out that the previous approval for the office building, an 18,000 square foot office building, would actually have more traffic generation throughout the day. You know, the residential, you do get your peaks in the morning, afternoon, and some traffic during the day. However, on a daily basis, the office building would generate more traffic, more turning movement. So I think that should be considered also in terms of, together with the sightline improvements that we're making to accommodate those turning movements. And there is heavy traffic on Route 59. That's not going to change. So I don't think I said that we were going to change the amount of traffic on Route 59. It's the amount of traffic generated by this project would be less than the office building, was the point.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
I can't believe this. I worked at Oakdale for over 2 years when they were converting to co-ops, and many of the people come down the back road, down Oakdale Road. They don't go onto the road, and they make a left-hand turn to get to the front door of Oakdale. So that's a thing. I don't think enough of a study was done. That is, everything narrows there, and it's a very dangerous, waiting to happen kind of situation if this were to be considered. The only thing you could possibly do to make it better would be to widen the road, but that isn't a reality. So this kind of project, and as far as with Gitlow, you have people who walk around there who have different disabilities, and they go out for a walk. They're going to be in traffic area. So and they're supposed to build their own building. What's happening to the multiple building that's going up by Nicky's? That's going to be, so we're not lacking, and plus the project that's out here. So we're definitely not lacking in this type of accommodations for people, and I think you're creating a horrible potential that can really affect people's lives. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Bruce Simon, 31 Utopian Avenue. Just a question for the architect and the engineer, please. And I apologize if you addressed this last month and I'm just now remembering. Where are you planning to have this building fit in LEED certification, if at all?
It's not our intention to go for LEED certification. However, it is our intention to design the building in accordance with the current energy codes for the state. It's our intention to design the building in accordance with the current energy codes for the state of New York, I'm sorry. So it would be a very energy efficient building, would have high efficiency HVAC equipment, insulation requirements. If you're asking a question about LEED, you may be aware that ASHRAE, who that LEED is based on for energy compliance, has new regulations out this year, and this building would comply with those.
Thank you very much.
You know, sure, you can come up.
Thanks. God bless you. I don't want us to be redundant, them or me, but we will be. I seem to recollect at the last meeting that same answer was given, dealing with only for emergency applications for vehicles to go through the Gitlow area out the back. But as the young lady said, a head or two back, another person, she said, I've never heard of such a thing where they can't build roads going around the back, et cetera, et cetera. They do, and I believe they do also. She drew reference also to a wider road, but it cannot be. I believe it cannot be the main Route 59 wider, but making that road, or a road, coming out a different way and having people get on a different road, which will take them to 59 going the other way. That makes sense. That's safe. And the cost, all right, it has to be taken, but if you want to have those accidents, and I've already said what I think of Route 59, I didn't say a limited time zone, I said on a daily basis. You know when it's safe to drive? Late at night. And those people who are going to work or who live in these nice buildings, the new structure that's going to come up, fine, they're going to be going to bed at night too. So then the roads will be safe and anyone can travel and make a left turn or whatever it is. But during the day, no, it's going to be dangerous. I think somebody has to seriously consider spending the money to have an alternate route and work it out with the people who own Gitlow Towers now, that a route can allow them to an alternate road, and then they can make their change. Just like when we go to the library. What do? We want to get back another way? We take a sharp right turn, we go down, we come down on 507. Something like that could be done without them going to 507. Just go around the back and come back the other way. I'll end it on that. But I had the same answer the last time, emergency only. No, that's acceding to Gitlow Towers, what they have. You have to have an original plan to offer something more than just that left turn, which may be very risky, as that other gentleman said. And I treat it as risky because I don't like driving 59, but we all have to.
We're not approving the zone change. I'm going to put together a proposed resolution. I'll talk to you about it.
Would anyone else from the public like to speak? I think I had a question last month about this. Was there any special consideration for first responders or our military personnel in regards to the rentals?
The answer was no. Yes, the applicant indicated that they will make available as many units as the village needed for their first responders at a reduced 5% rent reduction for police officers, firefighters, EMS members, and veterans.
Oh, it's very nice, thank you.
And it wouldn't be limited to a number of units. As many units as needed, that's what they would get.
And you'll enter into a covenant to that effect?
I can't hear you.
You'll enter into a covenant to that effect as a condition?
I'm sorry, Dan, I still don't hear you.
Will you enter into a covenant to that effect as a condition of approval?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak? It's now 9:15. I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Do we have any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. I'd like to make a motion to declare the village board the lead agency under SEQA.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor? Hold on.
Discussion.
Discussion, excuse me.
That would be just limited to the proposed zone change. The planning board would have to conduct a coordinated review with regard to the site plan issues and the variances.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. I offer a motion to adopt the negative declaration as provided, dated April 11, 2016. Do I have a motion?
Also limited to the proposed zone change.
Limited to the proposed zone change.
Second the motion.
All in, Bob. Robert.
Frank seconded.
And Frank. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Thank you.
Okay.
Bear with me. Wow.
Okay. I know what he's going to ask me.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Does the board want us back at any particular time to address any additional issues or to further discuss the zone change?
How about at the next village board meeting for Monday, May 9th?
Thank you, we'll be here.
Thank you.
Thank you, good night.
Good night.
Now you're cold? You're cold now? In Minnesota, they would keep it up.
Did you do the Valley hold the ethics to the No.
Let's get it done.
Because he's right.
It's all right. He's the next one.
After the code ed. Might take it.
You want to hold it?
The board meeting is May 9th. Not May 2nd. 9/20.
All right, it's now 8:20. Oh, no, 9:20, excuse me. It's getting late. I'd like to open the public hearing on the Code of Ethics law, the continuation of the Code of Ethics. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Do I have anyone from the public that would like to speak on the Code of Ethics?
Motion to close the public hearing? Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Do we have the resolution?
Just a motion to adopt the local law with regard to...
Moira closed it.
Okay. I don't have it in front of me. Motion to adopt the local law of the Code of Ethics.
Motion. Second.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. It's now 9:21. Motion to open the public hearing, valet parking, Benina's and Marcello's, Lafayette Avenue.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Anyone here from the public that would like to speak on behalf of Benina's and Marcello's, Lafayette parking, Lafayette Avenue parking? Confused on what we're doing. What? Confused on what we're doing.
My name is Bernard Listwan. I live at 153 Duxbury Lane in Suffern. I don't understand this. I go to these restaurants, and in town, we have very little going here. You have rateables. This past segment here was a very good rateable. There may have to be some things that have to be worked out, but it's a great rateable, which means taxes go down. I don't understand why the other restaurants are against these two restaurants. I really don't. They hire people to park cars, a valet service. Why don't the others do that? Unless I misunderstand what's going on with this, I really have no idea, but I'm upset. I'm really upset. So I'd like to know what this is really all about. Why are they being pointed at? Why are they targeted? Why is Denina's and Marcello's being targeted?
So you believe Marcello's and Denina that are being targeted for...
Well, isn't that what you just mentioned?
They are applying for a valet parking permit to allow them to valet park their cars.
But I thought this was something else. Maybe I misunderstood the whole situation.
No, it's an annual permit that is renewed upon annually for the restaurant to provide that service to their customer to use our parking lots in the village. Instead of placing all of the cars on the street, they bring them to the lot.
But why do they have to do that? I thought...
That's their option.
But if... Wait.
Okay, there's a local law that's been on the books. I don't know which president, but definitely...
Yeah, but if
going back-
Denina's has a parking lot as is, and you have the spots on the street, are you saying you're denying them to park the cars on the street?
No.
But they have to go in the parking lots?
Chief, would you like to elaborate?
I just don't know, because it's...
I have no idea. I mean, I'm just like, when I heard about this, I was upset.
Yeah, no,
Well, we don't want you to be upset.
There's
so we'll
been a
clear it
law in
up.
the books. It's probably, I don't think I need the mic. Over 20 years, and it's a valid parking permit. They put into the village board. My only part of this is basically to say that it's okay to do it if there's no issue with not leaving cars parked up on the sidewalks. And both of these places are fine. But the law does state they cannot park them in the street because they just leave them open for the other restaurants. I don't think anybody's giving them a hard time. It's just the local law to keep other people, like if somebody wants to go there, park in the street, they're more than welcome. But the valet service has to put them in the lots.
Correct.
Denina's was given permission, and I think Denina's even has permission from a local, the insurance agent at the end of town, to use that as well.
That's correct. I mean, I don't have a problem with that, but I never heard of it.
Yeah, no, it's just a code, one of the codes in the book, that's all, but they're both no problem.
Don't want to park their own car.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Yeah, you gotta extend it to month or to the first?
June 1st.
Right.
To consider amending the local law.
Yeah. Good. Are we on?
No, yeah.
Now, okay. So what we're going to do here with the applications for Marcello's and Denina's or valet parking throughout the villages, we're going to extend the period, the time frame that the applicants would like to submit their application up until June 1st. And at that time, we'll coincide with the new budget year. And at that time, we will amend the local law to reflect that the permits be issued June 1st to May 31st.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
It's good to... Wow. It's good to...
Ready?
Do you want to do this resolution for the bond resolution?
Yeah, you can do that.
Okay.
Good, Virginia? Turn it on.
I got it on.
It's on? Okay.
It's not.
No, it's off. Okay, we're good.
Okay. We received a letter from bond counsel today, so this is not on the agenda, and it was kind of late today. But it sort of relates to what Mr. Curley was speaking about with regard to why the increase in the sewer system costs. This has to do with a bond resolution that the board is being asked to approve. And when I say asked, it's mandated by DEC that we make certain improvements to our sewer system. And in order to fund this, we have to bond it. So I'll read it verbatim. Bond resolution of the Village of Suffern, New York, adopted April 11th, 2016, authorizing the construction of various sewer system improvements, stating the estimated maximum cost thereof is $700,000, approximating said amount for such purpose, and authorizing the issuance of bonds in the principal amount of $700,000 to finance said appropriation. The Board of Trustees of the Village of Suffern and the County of Rockland, State of New York, hereby resolves by the favorable vote of not less than 2/3 of the members of said Board of Trustees as follows. 1. Section 1. The Village of Suffern in the County of Rockland, New York, herein called the Village, is hereby authorized to construct various sewer system improvements. The estimated maximum cost thereof, including preliminary costs and costs incidental thereto, and the financing thereof is $700,000, and said amount is hereby approximated for such purpose. Appropriated for such purpose. The plan of financing includes the issuance of bonds and the levy and collection of assessments upon the several lots and parcels which the Village Board of Trustees shall determine and specify to be specifically benefited thereby in just proportion to the amount of benefit which said improvement shall confer upon the same, to pay the principal of said bonds and the interest thereon as the same shall become due and payable. Section 2, bonds of the village in the principal amount of $700,000 are hereby authorized to be issued pursuant to the provisions of the local finance law constituting Chapter 33A of the Consolidated Laws of the State of New York, herein called the law, to finance said appropriation. Section 3. The following additional matters are hereby determined and declared. A, the period of probable usefulness of the subject or purpose for which said bonds are authorized to be issued within the limitations of Section 11A4 of the law is 40 years. The proceeds of the bonds herein authorized, any bond anticipation notes issued in anticipation of said bonds may be applied to reimburse the village for expenditures made after the effective date of this resolution for the purpose of which said bonds are authorized. The foregoing statement of intent with respect to reimbursement is made in conformity with the Treasury Regulations Section 1.150-2 of the United States Treasury Department. C, the proposed maturity of the bonds authorized by this resolution will exceed 5 years. 4, Section 4. Each of the bonds authorized by this resolution and any bond anticipation notes issued in anticipation of the sale of said bonds shall contain the recital or validity as prescribed by Section 52 of the law, and said bonds and any notes issued in anticipation of said bonds shall be general obligations of the village payable as both principal and interest by general tax upon all the taxable real property within the village. The faith and credit of the village are hereby irrevocably pledged to the punctual payments of the principal and interest of said bonds. And any notes issued in anticipation of the sale said bonds and provisions shall be made annually in the budget of the village by appropriation for A, the amortization and redemption of the bonds, and any notes in anticipation thereof to mature in such year, and B, the payment of interest to be due and payable in such year. Section 5, subject to the provisions of this resolution and of the law, and pursuant to the provisions of Section 21 of the law, relative to the authorization of the issuance of bonds and substantially level or declining annual debt service, Section bond anticipation notes in Section 50 and Section 56, 260, and 168 of the law, the powers and duties of the Board of Trustees relative to authorizing bond anticipation notes and prescribing terms, form, and contents, and as to the sale and issuance of the bonds herein authorized, and any bond anticipation notes issued in anticipation of said bonds, and the renewals of said bond anticipation notes as to the execution of agreements for credit enhancements are hereby delegated to the village treasurer, the chief fiscal officer of the village. Section 6, the validity of bonds authorized by this resolution and of any notes issued in anticipation of the sale of said bonds may be contested only if, A, such obligations are authorized for an object or purpose for which the village is not authorized to expend money, or B, the provision of law which should be complied with at the date of the publication of said resolution are not substantially complied with, and an action, suit, or proceeding contesting such validity has commenced within 20 days after the date of such publication. Such obligations are authorized in violation of the provisions of this Constitution. Continuing, please take notice that on April 11, 2016, Board of Trustees of the Village of Suffern in the County of Rockland adopted a bond resolution entitled Bond Resolution of the Village of Suffern, New York, adopted April 11, 2016, authorizing the construction of the various sewer system improvements, stating that the estimated maximum cost thereof is $700,000. The village clerk is hereby authorized and directed to cause a summary of this bond resolution to be published after this bond resolution shall take effect in the newspaper referred to in Section 7 hereof, which is the Journal News, and together with a notice in substantially the same form as provided in Section 81 of the local finance law, constituting Chapter 33A of the Consolidated Laws of New York. And do we have a motion?
Motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Who seconded it?
Frank or Joe?
Joe. Do we have any discussion?
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, could we get the Reader's Digest condensed version of that?
Okay, we can have the condensed version. Mike, can you elaborate on the bond resolution?
Does anybody in this room have any idea what that letter was about? Okay. Can I get the condensed version?
Sure. Mike is going to speak about it.
More than a letter, it's a resolution.
In very simple terms, we are under a DEC consent order to make repairs to the sewer plant and sewer system. And the village recently went out to bid over the past year for these repairs and improvements. And we see that we are going to have to borrow up to $700,000 to make the necessary repairs. What was just read to you was the bond resolution that would authorize the village to go forth and borrow the money.
And if Mr. Zawicki would like to elaborate on the repairs of the Phase 1 and 2, so we're clear on the borrowing of the $700,000 and what we are going to use the funds for.
Do a better job than I did.
All right, yes, as the mayor just described, this is a phase 1 of a phase 2 overall project consent order from DC. Phase 1 consists of actually 2 separate contracts. One would be the replacement of the sanitary sewer on James Street, which is about 910 linear feet. The other project is cast-in-place liner, which would actually strengthen or be able to use that, you would not have to replace the sanitary sewer. You would extend the life of the existing sanitary sewer system by utilizing this liner. And that project is approximately 4,100 linear feet in various locations throughout the village.
And just to be clear, that one of the projects was postponed from last year and brought forward to this year?
Yeah, actually, both of those.
Both of them were, and one was funded, the price was held from last year to this year, and then we just rebid the second portion of the project?
That's correct.
Okay. Very good, thank you.
So complete the voting.
So we were at discussion. All in favor? Aye.
Can we have a roll call on that, too?
We'll have a roll call. That's Mr. Morris.
Yes.
Mr. Hagen.
Yes.
Ms. Hertzman.
Yes.
Mr. Russo.
Yes.
And I vote yes. The motion passes. Thank you. Okay. Did we leave this on the...
What was that?
Did we leave the LoSAP program on?
No, not yet.
We took it off?
No.
No, it's on. Okay. Okay.
We had a resolution.
Yes, we'll take the update from the fire department. Is Mike still here? Yeah, he's here. Okay.
Yes, he's here.
Good evening, Mike Lepori, Assistant Chief of the Suffern Fire Department. John couldn't be here tonight. He had family stuff he had to do. Just an update, we had our department elections last week. All the officers are staying the same for another year, so...
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. And we just need the 3 items voted on by the village.
Okay, so let's do the resolution for the board to approve the LoSAP Service Award Program. I have a resolution here.
Who makes the motion?
All right, Mr. Morris.
Second?
Mr. Hagen.
Mr. Hagen.
Okay.
Tried.
I should read the resolution. Whereas Dan McEnany, the Suffern Fire Department LoSAP Administrator, prepared the preliminary report detailing the service award points earned by the members of the Suffern Fire Department for the year 2015, and whereas the Board of Trustees of the Village of Suffern have reviewed Mr. McEnany's February 26, 2016 memo along with the attached list of service member award hours. Now therefore be resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Suffern does hereby approve the 2015 Suffern Fire Department 2015 Service Award Program preliminary report presented to it by Mr. McEnany. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Next, accept new members to the hose company. That would be Michael Dorsey and Robert Rojas.
Make a motion.
Motion to accept the new members by Mr. Morris, seconded.
Second.
Mr. Russo, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next, I guess you're seeking the approval for a car wash on April 17th?
Yeah, the car wash will be held at the Hook and Ladder. It's for the Rockland County Explorer, Fire Explorer program, which is 14 to 15-year-olds. We try to get them involved in the fire service young, so we can keep them when they get a little older, and it's their fundraiser.
How much is the car wash?
What?
$5.
Okay, Virginia said it's $5 a car. Okay, do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you very much.
Mike Lepori.
Okay. Ms. Mills, Culture and Recreation update, please.
Yep. There's a cow pump. We have a contract.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Village Board. Been very busy around recreation in the village lately. It was a thrill to have the film group at the community center the other day. Suffern was looking great for them to come in. It was a good couple of days. So a couple of things that we have coming up. The upcoming nutrition workshop is the first Tuesday of every month in the community room at 10:30 a.m. Suffern Little League Parade and Opening Day has been moved. It was intended to be last Saturday, the 9th, but it will be this coming Saturday, April 16th at 9:30 a.m. weather permitting. Clifford Theater auditions began yesterday here in the auditorium, and they will continue Tuesday, which is tomorrow, April 12th, and Wednesday, April 13th. I have that at 6 o'clock, and it's actually 6:30 p.m. tomorrow and Wednesday. We have upcoming arts and crafts on Wednesday, April 13th and April 27th at 11 o'clock in the community room. This is open to everyone. We have the knitting session right now, so if anyone's interested in coming out to knit, it's a forum upstairs in the community room. All are welcome. We have LEAD on Friday, April 15th. That's at 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. at the community center. The Suffern Street Fair is coming up on Sunday, April 17th, and that is at 10 to 5 on Lafayette Avenue. We have, on Sunday, April 17th, JCC will be showing a film festival here at the Lafayette Theater. They will be having a reception first in the community center, and that will be, I believe, 1 p.m. I'm sorry, that's later than that, but it will be over at the community center. Upcoming primary elections, Leo Leiden and the community center will be used as locations for that. That's upcoming on Tuesday, April 19th. So there will be polling at both of those locations, so there won't be any activities in Leo Leiden or the community center on those days. We have, believe it or not, we're looking forward to the pool already. So we have interview for lifeguards coming up on April 19th and April 21st. If anyone is interested in lifeguarding, please contact Recreation, and we look forward to hearing from people coming back and new lifeguards for the season. We are also in need of 2 maintenance positions for the pool for the summer, and that's the morning hours before the pool opens to clean the pool and get it ready. So we are getting ready for that right now. The next Recreation Board meeting is this Thursday, April 14th at 7 p.m. in the community room. The nutrition workshop in the evening, this is something that we worked with Trustee Hertzman, Nancy Christopher upstairs in Recreation. We'll be doing the nutrition workshop in the evenings for all to attend. And that first one will be April 27th at 7 p.m. in the community room. So we look forward to starting that series for the public. Movie Day over at the Community Center will be on April 28th at 12:30 in the Community Center. And then upcoming at the very end of this month, we have Arbor Day and Keep Rockin' Beautiful. And we have chosen the date here for Suffern to be Saturday, April 30th, between 9 and 12. Arbor Day planting of the tree, I think with Charles and the tree committee, we're still working out the actual planting of the tree. Yes. But we're going to be doing Keep Rockin' Beautiful for sure on April 30th. So if anyone's interested, if they could sign up in keeprockinbeautiful.org, and then we organize locations. So that's always a great day for the village. A lot of groups come out, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, a lot of residents come out to clean up, so we look forward to hosting that again this year. And then...
Could I ask you one question?
Sure.
With the cleanup portion, has there been defined locations set yet?
We typically use the same locations that we previously used, unless another location or another area has been identified. So some, just for example, what we have used in the past is Memorial Drive and the pool area over there, Yorkshire Drive and the Dare hockey rink around there. The ball fields, that always depends if there's any games going on because there's too much confusion with cars. We've done the village itself. We've done down by the tracks off of Orange Avenue. So there's a lot of locations, but if the board or for anyone has any ideas of where you would like us to do a cleanup, we're more than, it's between Charles and myself and Joe and everybody, we pick the location so that we can make the best efforts the day of the cleanup. So if you know of a location that you like, we're more than open to do that.
Great.
A few things that I need to discuss tonight. As we discussed at the workshop, the Clifford Theater contract, we need to put an additional $255, and that was for an omission of the dollar fee for the performance dates. So we have a new contract, and Dan had looked at it. I believe there is a resolution tonight.
Yes, we have it.
Okay. And then the pool registration permit, every year to apply to the Rockland County Department of Health, we need to fill out a pool permit, and the fee for that is $490. So we need that signed, and then we'll be able to do a check so we can get the pool permit fee in process.
Great, thank you. So on that note, we have a resolution to offer here amending, that will amend the resolution number 13 of 2016 for certain recreation contracts for the year 2016 and the expenditures therefore. Whereas resolution number 13 of 2016 was adopted on March 7, 2016 by the village board at the village board meeting, and whereas the cost for each performance of Jekyll and Hyde by Clifford Theater was omitted from the original resolution. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Trustees of the Village of Suffern that the cost of each performance of Jekyll and Hyde be as follows. Jekyll and Hyde for July 29th, one performance at $85. Jekyll and Hyde for July 30th, two performances at $85 each, for a total of an additional expense of $255, and to be appropriated from the recreation budget line of the 2015-2016 budget. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Do I have any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you.
We need a on-the-fly resolution on this poll registration.
Make a motion.
Full registration permit.
Okay.
So we need to expend $490. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
For the health department. Okay, so
And to authorize the mayor to execute. Does he sign?
Does he sign?
I have in the past, but
Okay,
it's
so authorize-
your decision if you'd like the mayor to sign.
Authorize Kathy Mills, Recreation Coordinator for the Village of Suffern, to sign on behalf of the village.
Okay, so we offer the resolution to,
For the expenditure.
for the expenditure of the pool registration permit fee of $490. That's due by May 2nd, 2016. And also to authorize Kathy Mills as the rec department coordinator to sign on behalf of the Village of Suffern. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Great, thank you. I would like to also, at this time, take the opportunity to thank the Recreation Department, the leader here, and Elaine and Kathy, and all involved with the filming on Friday. That went very well. Also with the DPW crew that was available, and the police department made it a real huge success. So thank you very much for your dedicated work on the movie. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
When are they going to get more filming?
The right thing in there.
Mr. Fred Rella.
Good evening, Mayor, Board. I worked with Ellen Jaffe's office, Assemblywoman Ellen Jaffe, this past month, and we put in for a total of $125,000 in items, and those were a number of items for varying departments within the village. For the police department, we put in for a patrol vehicle, a Ford Interceptor SUV.
Did we get it?
Hopefully.
Okay.
It's not in the budget, so. Also for the DARE program. Also put in for the very first time for the Suffern Museum and also the Railroad Museum, which is down over on Lafayette Avenue. The Railroad Museum currently just has a gravel walkway such that you have to walk across. Anyone who's handicapped would have a very hard time, or the elderly. So we're looking to put in a concrete walkway and a brand-new entranceway there. So hopefully we'll get some funds there. For the Suffern Fire Department, put in for an all-terrain vehicle, which would basically be what we call a quad vehicle, which would be used for to go in areas like when it gets flooded down in Squires Gate, or in wooded areas, or very muddy areas to get equipment. I can't see Fred. I'm sorry. For the DPW and the Rec Department, in a combination, did for a number of tables, benches, and waste baskets throughout the village. This would include everything from like where the Dare hockey rink is, to the athletic fields, down off Chestnut Street to Main Street, where you would be replacement for the current trash receptacles that are there. Also, for 4 computer setups for the Recreation Department. They're in dire need of some new computer systems, which should be utilized for everything from the pool area to their office upstairs. And finally, for the Clifford Theater. This is something which Ellen Jaffe holds near and dear to her heart and tends to contribute to every year. But once again, we put in for $5,000 for that. Hopefully, we'll get it. So that, we should know something probably in the next couple of months on this.
Okay, great. Thank you, Fred.
Another item is that I forwarded over some paperwork to you, the mayor, and to the chief, I guess a couple weeks ago, about a Department of Defense program called the 1033 program, in which we can get excess equipment and supplies that they no longer want. Our only obligation is that we sign a memorandum of understanding and that we actually go and pick up the equipment itself. And this ranges in everything from, I'll just mention some, from Humvees to boats, tents, office furniture, computers, storage containers, non-tactical vehicles, trailers, water tankers, ATVs and golf carts, large generators, load-carrying gear, winter clothing and equipment, weapons, weapon accessories and tools, and fixed-wing aircraft. So maybe we're going to have a...
Could start an aviation unit here in the Suffern Police Department.
Right. Yes.
What is the... What is the deadline on that, Fred? Is there a deadline?
No, there's no deadline.
Okay.
It's an open program, but it does have the memorandum of understanding to sign, and then there's the overall program guidelines to review. So I'm going to send that both to Dan and to you once again, and I'll send it to the whole board so you can review it and look at it, and we can get moving on that. But
okay,
I think it'll be something that'll be very interesting. Just one final thing. Someone mentioned about the downtown lighting earlier.
Yes.
And those low lights that we received, we got back in 2008, and that had to do with Obama stimulus money that we were able to capture. I was able to do that with the Office of Community Development. It was $50,000. And there was a need downtown, particularly, it was going to be a phased concept where we were going to put the low-level lighting throughout the whole downtown district because they felt that it wasn't illuminated enough during the nighttime. So as opposed to putting in extra large lamps, we thought that we would be putting in these low-level ones. In phase 1, which cost $50,000, we put in the low-level lights. But the thing is that they continually get backed into, they get broken all the time, and so we just decided not to continue with that initiative.
I think we had a rash of vandalism on them also, and we got tied up, I believe, in court, and then we had to purchase the parts, and I believe that they are going to be repaired.
Yeah.
No? He's saying no. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Fred. All right. We didn't receive any reparations, though.
I'm not sure what happened.
Yeah. Of course, thank you.
We're just going to do a motion.
Okay, Police Department update, Chief.
Okay, thank you, Board. Fred, I want to thank you, first of all, for putting for the vehicle. I know we spoke about that, Fred, and second of all, we participated in the 1033 program, surplus program, probably about 20 years ago. They did close it down due to the war efforts and everything else going on, and I'm glad to see that it's going, and I want to thank you for that, because we received back...
I'm sorry, Chief, hold on.
No problem.
Virginia, I think the machine went off.
Hurry up, down there. You gotta find one.
If there's anything
Thank you. Okay.
You're good,
Okay,
Chief.
Virginia,
Thank you.
you so much. And I was just mentioning in regards to that 1033 government surplus program, we actually got an old Dare truck, that old white truck that's still used by DPW. That's where we got that from. So that's been around forever. And we actually got a box truck for tactical years ago, and many other things. So it is a very good program. Night vision goggles. So I'm glad. I thank you, Fred. Love to work in that. And we had to We had to get down at that time to New Jersey, one of the military bases. I don't know where it is now. I'm assuming it's probably... Okay, that's what it was. Yeah, Fort Dix. I used to send officers down. Actually, I used to go down as well when we first started it. So thank you for doing that. It's a big help to us. I'll make this very quickly. I know it's been a long meeting. We have one thing to vote on, if you guys could just vote on the appointment of a parking enforcement officer, is what it's technically called, I believe, under civil service. And it'll be a part-time job. It'll be a parking aide for the parking authority. Right now, we have one parking authority officer that works in the morning. This would be for the afternoon hours, part-time, 20 hours a week. The salary would be $10.58 an hour. And I'm asking the board to appoint John Natale as this aide. He can start as soon as we get clearance of personnel, which should be any day. We sent it in Virginia, 2 weeks ago? Virginia and I and Joanne, so we may even have the clearance any day. And I'm obviously starting with Mike for the first couple weeks in the mornings to show him how to do the job, and then he'll be on his own after that.
Okay. So the chief is requesting, we'll put forth a motion to appoint John Natale as a parking enforcement officer pending clearance from the Rockland County Department of Personnel with a starting salary of $10.58 an hour in a part-time capacity.
Yes, thank you.
Do I have a motion? Motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Mayor and Board. Just real quick, I asked them next month, if you wouldn't mind, next month on May 10th, National Police Week starts. I believe our board meeting is May 9th. I'd like to see if the board wouldn't mind. I spoke to the mayor today about it. If we could possibly bring officers in, we have, I believe, at least 7 officers that received awards from the Rockland County PBA in December for this past year for some life saves, some other things we've had. We actually had a very busy year with serious calls. So I'd like to see if the board wouldn't mind if we could bring them in. I'll get plaques of appreciation for each officer, and we can present them to them that night.
Absolutely, we will do that.
Great.
That'll be on Monday, May 9th.
That's correct. Thank you so much, Mayor and Board. I appreciate everything.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks.
What's that? Oh, change that? Okay.
Couple old VHS tape? Oh my God. That's taken off?
Okay, thank you. Okay, Building Department, Mr. Zawicki. You want to set a public hearing?
Set a public hearing.
Okay. Maybe you could give us a little detail on the public hearing.
Okay, yes, this would be asking requesting the board to set a public hearing for the annual New York State DEC MS4 report, and that would be the May 9th. And that report is done on an annual basis and is, as I mentioned earlier, is submitted to the New York State DEC.
I'm trying. Okay, so, what was that?
Oh, you're talking about the MS4, yeah. There is a building department item on here, which I'm not familiar with.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that particular item.
Hold on, okay.
UC yards.
Public hearing for that, for May 9th of the month. This is for the building department.
Okay, I'm sorry for the confusion. Hold on now. Let's just get back to the agenda. So for the building department, we're going to set a public hearing for a change to the section of 266 sub 15G of the Village Code regarding use of yards. So we're going to set the public hearing for May 9th of 2016. So we're going to...
8:45, 7:45?
We'll make that at 7:35. Okay, sorry about that.
Makes the motion.
Okay. Now I have a motion to set the public hearing.
Motion.
I have a second. All in favor? Aye. Good. All right. Sorry about that, Charles. Okay.
Charles.
Now Charles is up.
Okay. All right. I'd like to request the board for motion to set a public hearing for May 9th board meeting for the annual New York State DEC MS4 report.
Okay, so we'll make a motion to set a public hearing for the annual New York State DEC MS4 report for Monday, May 9th at 7:45. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Okay.
Motion passes.
Okay, I'd like to provide the board with an update. Today, as many of you know, that Orange Avenue sidewalk and curb grant project was started today, as anticipated completion schedule of April 29th. And just the extent of the work is from Washington Avenue down to Oliver Street.
Great.
I understand that the village attorney has resolutions on these other items, the training,
Yes.
court clerk, the water bids.
Oh my gosh.
Very good.
All right.
That's it for me. Thank you.
That's it? Okay. Okay, so next on the resolutions here is a resolution authorizing William Barish to attend CSEA training on occupational safety and health. Whereas the village board adopts resolution number 27, 2015, authorizing attendance of municipal conferences at its reorganization meeting on December 7, 2015, with prior approval by the Board of Trustees. And whereas Mr. William Barish wishes to attend CSEA training on occupational safety and health course on April 15th, 2016 in Lake Placid, New York. Now therefore be resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Suffern hereby authorizes William Barish to attend the CSEA training on occupational safety and health course in Lake Placid, New York at his sole cost and expense. Notwithstanding the same, Mr. Barish will be entitled to his full village salary while in attendance at this conference. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? No. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. I have a resolution before me, a resolution authorizing Mr. Charles Sawicki to attend and being reimbursed for attending the New York State Floodplain and Stormwater Managers Training. Whereas the village board adopts resolution number 27 of 2015, authorizing attendance at municipal conferences at its reorganization meeting on December 7, 2015, with prior approval by the Board of Trustees. And whereas Charles Sawicki wishes to attend the New York State Floodplain and Stormwater Managers Training in Saratoga Springs, New York on May 16th through May 18th of 2016. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Suffern hereby authorizes Charles Sawicki to attend the New York State Floodplain and Stormwater Managers Training in Saratoga Springs, New York on May 16th through May 18th at a cost of $290 plus 2 nights lodging and meals, $120 a night for hotel, government per diem rate. This training will satisfy the remaining continuing education credits required for a certified floodplain manager. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. I'm taking that one off.
Oh, you're taking it off? Okay.
front of me, I have a resolution to reject all bids submitted by the Water Department Chemical Bid Alternate Number 1, liquid sodium hypochlorite solution, and authorization to rebid liquid sodium hypochlorite solution with a bid due date of April 25th, 2016 at 3 p.m. Do I have a motion to reject all bids?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in, discussion?
It's not just to reject the bids, it's also to authorize going out to rebid. Just to be clear.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. I have a motion before me, authorization to accept lowest bid from George C. Coyne Company for zinc orthophosphate utilized by the Water Department at a cost of $9.40 per gallon, and to authorize the mayor to execute the required contract with an expiration date of May 31st, 2017. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. This one? You're gonna mess me up now. Getting tired. Okay, I think this is the last resolution. This is resolved to accept $5,650 for a walk-through metal detector from the 2015-2016 Justice Court Assistance Program, and authorization to purchase a PB6500I walk-through detector manufactured by Security Detection supplied by Promark International of Copiague, New York. The quote is from the New York State bid list, contract number 38232-22872, PC 66807, at a cost of $4,548.44. Authorization is also requested for an electrical contractor with an estimated cost of under $1,100. The above item will be charged to account A1110.44000118.
Sorry, could you repeat all that?
I can't. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Do I have any discussion?
Yes, just want to make clear that the electrical work will have to comply with the village's procurement policy.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
What's that?
C has been removed from the agenda. We will discuss that tomorrow.
We have a resolution.
Okay. Now we move on to audience participation. Anyone from the audience like to speak?
Patsy Wooters, 19 Mansfield Place. I'm standing before you in my capacity as the co-chair of the Conservation Committee of the Water Task Force. I've been asked to go around to various villages in this area and suggest to you that you become partners with the EPA Water Sense program. I believe that Harriet Cornell, who's the chair of the Water Task Force, has already written to the village, and I have some materials to offer you background information.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming, Patsy.
EPA has been running the Water Sense program since 2006. What they do is they review appliances and recommend any that achieve a 20% reduction in water use. We're talking about toilets, faucets, shower heads, urinals, irrigation systems. And they're looking for savings in water, which lead to savings in energy, which lead to savings in money. Now, I know as a Suffern resident, I'm fully aware that we have our own water system, and actually, we get first dibs on the water in the Ramapo River, so we're laughing. We have plenty of water for the foreseeable future and nothing to worry about. However, we in Suffern also pay taxes to the town and the county is a customer, and the town is a customer of Suez. And Suez had proposed a desalination plant. It was fought, people pushed back, and as a result of that pushback, the Water Task Force was formed. And it's supposed to be a collaboration between Suez and county residents. Suez has backed out because they didn't like the report that came out about them, but there still is collaboration going on. The idea being that in order for the Rockland County to continue to have sufficient water for development, for fire prevention and so forth, that there needs to be, water needs to be used efficiently. And so that is basically what this is for. The process would require a resolution, and I gave a copy of the county's resolution to the village attorney as a model if he cares to use it. And then it's an application process that the village would do online. It is free, and it's basically a PR, it's basically public relations to push the idea of water conservation. But this is going to be an uphill battle for us because we look out the window and we see that we live in a green world, and lots of times we have too much water, and it seems counterintuitive that we actually need to be careful about the water that we use. But in terms of wear and tear on plant, and energy costs, and the cost to the water rates, these are all things that if we use Water Sense appliances, we will be saving ourselves bucks, both as a village and as taxpayers. So I encourage the village to discuss it, talk it over, and I do hope that you'll become a Water Sense partner. And if you do, please let me know.
Great, thank you.
Okay? I just want to say that the village of Pomona let me speak first.
Sorry about that.
Thank you very much for giving me the chance to speak.
You're welcome.
It's that time in the evening when most of the people have gone home to give the compliments to the respective parties involved that have made our town a little better. One, all the people on the dais, use that word again, have done an excellent job here enlightening us and trying to help us. Our police department has done an excellent job. I'm happy. I've noticed very few cars on my block, almost none. That's very encouraging. And the people who are cleaning the pipes and doing the pipes and changing are doing excellent also. I agree with the young lady. Of course, I hope some of her suggestions just now, that they don't become a mandatory, but that they're something for us to think about. I wouldn't want Big Brother to tell us we must, this and that about water, although it's encouraging and good to be enlightened, and maybe we will benefit from it and from you, etc., with more presentation of this sort from the young lady. But again, I want to reaffirm, because you had a gentleman from the police department earlier who was discussing the accomplishments and the things, etc., and he said, of course, we've had that pilot program or something dealing with the low lights, and he was either suggesting that they were going to replace them, the broken, I guess we'll say street lamps, the short ones. But my point earlier in saying something where I don't want to be too redundant was that since there were approximately 19 of them that were on the street, and I guess 8 and then 5, something like that, I might be off by 1, were not working. I was suggesting that it be thought about, if the costs were expensive on the repairs of these again and again and again on these short ones, that they might revert back to the tall ones, because you have half of them at least that are tall, and they're not broken in any way. They're functional. It might be much more sensible to put the part that's missing right back on top again. We may have them in storage for all I know, and we won't have any more need for repair, and therefore tremendous savings. So that should be looked into, rather than just repairing something that might be a continuously repetitive thing of always repairing because of either trucks or cars or people who are manhandling this kind of lighting and destroying it, costing us very good money. And I just wanted to reaffirm that thought, that it shouldn't be lost in the affirmation, well, we'll repair it. I would say, maybe, let's talk about that, not now. Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening again, Roy Chudy, 16 Lonigan Drive. I'd like to first say thank you to the mayor, the board. I'd like to say thank you to Joe Hunt and the DPW workers who are doing such a nice job down at Donna Hallett Park, sprucing up the area. They've planted some nice bushes, and they're fixing up the basketball courts. This way the kids will have somewhere to play other than in the street. So, you know, it'll be a little bit safer for the kids to play. They'll have somewhere to play. They've been chomping at the bit. They ask me every day when I'm walking my pups around the block, and when's it going in? So hopefully the backboards to that will be going in soon, and they could resurface the court. But they're all excited about that. And
We're making headway down there.
Yep, I appreciate that very much. I'd also like to ask if you can do either the village or the homeowners on State Street clean up the debris that they've been dumping in the back of their homes, in the back of Donna Hallett Park. It is not only unsightly, it's not eco-friendly. If you go back there and look, they have cut trees down and they've just dumped them. They haven't moved them out. They have taken their old driveways, broken it up, and thrown it in the back. There are old decks that they've broken up, thrown it down there. That slope going into the Mawa River is approximately a 40-degree angle. 40-degree angle with that is going to lead for all that debris to eventually find its way down into the Mawa River, blocking it up. Again, it's unsightly, it shouldn't be, and whether the village cleans it or the homeowners are responsible for it, they should be removing that. It doesn't belong there, and if everybody else has to abide by that, those folks should also. Regarding the Bakery Park, as I call it, on Temple Lane, I would hope that there is some kind of update on Bakery Park, that if you go down there now, look at either the wood chips or the cedar chips as they have it, I don't think you'd even find hamsters that would want to play in there. It's a mess. And now you have kids, little toddlers playing in there. I would like to see that updated, and maybe an item or two added to Bakery Park, so they'd have something more to play with, except for just a few swings. It's lacking in equipment. The county has just proceeded and gone through a bidding process, and they are looking to purchase the river barriers, the portable river barriers. So once those are purchased, they're going to be stored at the fire training center, which any municipality in the county is going to be available for use of. So I would ask that the village have somebody designated that in the case of flooding or pre-flooding, that we have somebody who can get there so that our village can have it to protect the homes or businesses in this area. Because since the county owns it, any municipality is open to receiving it, so hopefully we could get there first.
Well, once that purchase is made, Roy, that's what our plan is, really, to get somebody out there to get them trained. As you know, that we were denied the funding for the river barriers in the past, but...
I'm well aware of that.
Right. We will have someone trained and ready to respond when the county does make the purchase.
Yeah, well, like I said, the bidding just went out, so that should be happening shortly. I would also ask that the village have somebody perform an exploratory search to where the barriers would be implemented. What good would it be if you just get the barriers and then say, where do we put it now? I mean, there's numerous areas, and you'd have to do a successful search where to implement it so it doesn't flood out any other homes or businesses. It has to be in an area that would be safe for all concerned, and you certainly don't want to be in a position of saving some homes and flooding out somebody else. That would serve no purpose, and of course, then, the village could probably be on the end of receiving a suit. So I would ask that we have, be ahead of the curve on that. On something totally unrelated to this, again, I am a member of the Vietnam Veterans. Due to HIPAA laws, it prevents us from reaching out to find veterans who are in need of hand cycles or any other kind of physical equipment that would help them in their recreation or rehabilitation. So we've been successful in doing it, but it's, again, through HIPAA laws, we have to circumvent that by going through back doors, so to speak. So I would ask, again, if the village, anybody in the public that knows of any veteran that would like some help, that we would be glad, more than happy, it's our moral obligation, that we will gladly buy these hand cycles for them, or any other thing, such as a kayak, if they would want to go out on the lakes and enjoy the lakes. Anything that basically the VA does not provide for these individuals, these men and women, we would be more than happy to look at them and see what we can do to help them and purchase it for them and help make their lives a little bit better. So whether anybody on the board or anybody here or anybody that sees this on tape knows of anybody, please contact the mayor. The mayor will contact me, and then we'll get this through, and we can, if we can help one other person, one other veteran in need, then it's worth it. And with that, I'll say thank you.
Thank you, Roy. Roy is a huge advocate for veterans here in the county through the VVA, the Vietnam Veterans Association, and he does an outstanding job in supporting our veterans that come home disabled. So really keep it in mind if you know anyone or would like to contribute or donate any funds to the VVA, Vietnam Veterans of America, Chapter 333 of Rockland County. Thank you, Roy.
Hi, Michael Curley, 84 Orange Avenue. At the last meeting, it was said by, I think, the attorney that you were going to tweak the ethics law. I was wondering if we voted on the tweak version or the first version?
That would be the first version.
So it was not tweaked?
No.
Okay. Well, then I just have to, I'd be remiss if I didn't say, I feel this board has gone backwards in the world of open government and transparency, all right? But individually, as individuals, and as a board, totally. And my next issue is, and I was back when I talked about the sewer rates, because it's, and I talked about, maybe someone missing a movie, okay? Well, it's a lot more than someone missing a movie, okay? I figured people could see more into it, all right? It's about, village residents have already sacrificed a lot one time last year, and now again this year, extremely far, okay? Some people may not need that movie, but young married couples might need it, okay? The biggest reason for divorce is money, okay? And it might just be that movie, okay? But it's a lot, okay? And it might be that for the senior citizen, it might be their medicine, okay?
It might be that copay for that medicine. So they choose not to get that medicine, okay? So it wasn't just about a movie, missing a movie, okay? It was about a family unit. It was about people together. It was much, much more than that. I'm talking about the cumulative effect of everything, all the taxes together, right? And I chose that one, okay? Because that one was percentage-wise, even though it might not be the most amount of money, okay? And I recognize that, but that's what I was thinking about. I was thinking about that family. I was thinking about that young married couple that I said, hey, let's try to keep them here. Let's not get them divorced, all right? And it's not just that. I'm not saying you're causing that divorce, okay? It's everything together. It's a cumulative effect. So it's saying you don't have to say, boom, I pulled it off in 1 year and a year and a half, okay? It doesn't have to be, because people are hurting out there, okay? Many people in that whatever age group, 40, 50, they're losing their jobs to different people or different way or mechanism, okay? And maybe you guys all have enough up there. Maybe you don't, but there are a lot of people that don't. So that's what I was thinking. If there's a way you could take your pencil or write and do it and make it a little longer term for people, okay? Because I've looked at a lot of budgets for a lot of years. I stood up here for a lot of years, okay? And I can tell you, we're going to be in much better shape next year and the year after, okay? I'm just saying if you could pull back a little bit, the reins a little bit, and let them go, and I'll say it openly, let them go to that movie. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Is there anyone else that would like to speak?
Paul Gerard, 2 Cross Street. Is there any update on the Novartis property, or should we count on you guys to call a hearing when there's appropriate information for that? Legoland,
Novartis. The Novartis property, unfortunately, has been very confidential between the buyers and the broker. So between the seller and the broker and the potential buyer. But as of today, I have no definitive information other than what everybody else is hearing, all these different rumors. So at that point, no. I was told that they entered into a contract, and that's about it.
So what say does the village have on how that property could be used?
It could be used in accordance with the zoning that is currently in place.
Okay. And who are the buyers and who are the brokers?
The seller is Novartis, and the broker is Cushman Wakefield. We don't know who the buyer is. If there is a buyer, for sure.
Okay, so outside of them asking for some variance on the zoning,
they have not approached the village at all with any variances, with any relief, with nothing.
and that's really the only grounds that they would come and approach us for it. Otherwise, if there's a transaction made...
It's a private transaction. They can make the purchase and keep it confidential.
Okay. Mr. Morris, any progress with finding a college and university to look at the City of Suffern study?
Yes. West Point has agreed to take on the project. They look for practical problems like this for their cadets, and hopefully, I believe I'm waiting for an email back from them, but we have a tentative date set up to meet with them on April...
Tentative date what?
We have a date to meet with them on April 15th.
So this week?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. How much did we get for the movie shoot last week?
Approximately $6,990, and an additional $1,000 that we didn't receive yet, and that will be going hopefully towards recreation.
Okay. And as far as taxes in general, last year, 16% increase. This year, in town of Ramapo, another 16% increase. This year, sewer fund, 14% increase. We need to be doing a better job here. We do. People in this room have an ability to influence what's going on in town of Ramapo by getting us out from under them. There's a lot of folks asleep on this board, and I think you know who you are. We need to be working a little harder. These double-digit increases are outrageous, and they're avoidable. And then finally, who's responsible for putting the board meetings on YouTube? Because the last two are not up yet. These meetings have been marathons. I wasn't able to stay for the whole thing for the last one, but I wanted to get updated. But the last one I see on there is the January meeting. So February and March, are they getting on there?
We've been having a problem with the equipment and uploading there is an issue with it, and we're working through it. Are they on the website, on the village website themselves?
Yes.
Yes, not on YouTube.
The videos are on the village website?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. Okay, that's my fault then. I usually go to the YouTube. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? No repeats. Come on now, it's getting late.
Al D'Ambrosio, 4 Cross Street, Suffern, New York. The only reason I'm coming up here again, which is, I don't want to either. I'm tired. Somebody else said that line. But the truth is, you gentlemen, ladies, representatives of us, you've only been here, I guess, under a year, something to that effect. Yeah, and I think it takes a hell of a lot more than a year to resolve problems that have been inherited by you all for the past couple of years. That's the real problem. You can't cure something that quick. So whether it's Ramapo, which we're the village of Suffern, I wish you good fortune in resolving our problems. And I'll just say, I believe all of you are doing pretty good for short notice. So keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? No? Okay. Good.
Motion to close.
Okay. Ms. Menschner?
Nothing, Mayor.
Nothing? Okay, thank you. Mr. Janito?
Yes, Mayor, the first thing that we have is an amount of money, a receipt of $7,725 from the New York State Office of Court Administration. Of that amount, $5,650 is paying for the magnetometer that you addressed a little bit earlier in the agenda. And the remaining $2,075 is for computers and furniture in the court system. We have already received that money.
We have that?
Yes, we have the money in
Okay.
hand. So,
Okay, so we have a resolution here before me to amend the 2015-2016 budget reflecting the receipt of $7,725 from the New York State Office of Court Administration for a 2016 Justice Court Assistance Program grant and to increase the estimated revenues account A00038990003 Justice Court grant of $7,725 and to increase appropriations account A111044001116 Justice Court grant expenditures of $7,725. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Do I have any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Aye. Motion passes.
The next item that we have is a resolution to close completed capital projects. In the course of the audit for the past couple of years, we have a number of outstanding old projects, some with positive balances, some with negative balances. They're not reflective of cash that's available, but they are accounting balances that are left within these projects. And what we're recommending is that on many of these very old projects that go back to the year 2000, that we offset the positives with the negatives and close out as many of them as we can.
Okay, and in front of me, I have a resolution to close completed capital projects, whereas special capital projects in the capital projects funds have been completed, and whereas several of the aforesaid capital projects have a remaining surplus fund balance, and several of the aforesaid capital projects have a remaining deficit fund balance. And whereas other than a de minimis amount of originally raised from the issuance of debt, and aforesaid capital projects were funded by transfers in from the general fund, water fund, and sewer fund. And whereas it is the intent of the village board of the village of Suffern to eliminate the total deficit fund balances in the aforesaid capital projects with the use of the total surplus fund balances in the aforesaid capital projects, and whereas it is sound financial management practice to close completed capital projects. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Trustees, Village of Suffern, does hereby close the following capital projects using funds from those capital projects having a surplus fund balance to finance those capital projects having a deficit fund balance. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the 2015-16 adopted budget for general water, sewer fund, and capital project fund are hereby amended to reflect the associated increases in transfers out to other village funds and transfers in from other village funds. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Motion passes.
One last thing, Mayor, for the general public. Income taxes do not have to be filed on April 15th this year. There's an extension till April 18th. That's the Monday following the weekend. Anybody know why?
Why?
Emancipation, no, not Patriots Day, we don't honor that. That's over in Maine and Massachusetts. But however, in Washington, D.C., they have what is known as Emancipation Day, where 3,100 African-American slaves were emancipated in 1862 by letter of signature of President Lincoln. And on that date, from that date up forward, they've had this, or actually from 1985 forward, they've had a holiday in our nation's capital, and all the federal agencies are closed for that. So we are extended. Virginia can fill you in, she was there for the signing.
Oh, my goodness.
Thank you, I think.
He loves you, Virginia. God,
You saying anything?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, next up is the village attorney, Mr. Kraushaar.
Okay, how much tape you have left? No, I'm just kidding. Okay. Okay. I'm going to be recommending a couple of local laws be adopted, or at least considered by the village board, and to set public hearings for those local laws. The first one would be to create a local law to get reimbursed from applicants, such as the one that we heard tonight, who is applying for a large development, for professional services, which the village either incurs directly through the planner or indirectly through me, Rob Magrino, Charles Zawicki. So for the attorney, the planner, and the engineer. And that money would be billed per hour. It would be a reasonable rate, but with regard to me, Mr. Magrino, and Mr. Zawicki, it would go to offset our salaries, and in my opinion, be paid for by the beneficiaries of building projects from the village, as opposed to the way it's done right now, which is through taxes, and everyone's paying for that. So I'd like to have the board consider setting a public hearing on a local law to create a fee schedule for professional services related to applications before the village board, the planning board, and the zoning board for March 9th, May 9th, 2016 at?
That would be 7:50.
Okay. Does anyone want to make that motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Motion passes.
I'd like to suggest that the village board also set a public hearing for a local law on filming in the village of Suffern. I'll make this quick. We got a phone call a week and a half ago. We want to film in your village. What do we need to do? I went searching in our Nixonian code, found nothing, and working with Kathy and Chief Osborne and Charles Zawicki, what we did was we came up with a maximum amount of time that each department would have to, sorry.
That's the TFCC. Is that, are we in? Good.
Okay. Using time and a half, and we got reimbursed for that. I wasn't around for it, but I don't even believe that all that time was used. We also got reimbursed for the use of the community center, and in essence, the use of the parking lot where they park their trucks. And as the mayor said, they stated that they were voluntarily going to be contributing $1,000 to some program related to the arts. That said, we have nothing in a local law that talks about the process, application fees, etc. But I can tell you that the feedback that I got from the mayor, really, speaking to the people involved in the filming, they really thought we ran an amazing ship here, and that they want to come back, and that they know other companies that want to come back. So I'm going to recommend a local law. I'm also going to be working with the state of New York. They do have a department that deals with filming to try to get some ideas and concepts, and it would be a nice attraction. The feedback that we got in terms of the architecture and the spirit in the village, you should all be very proud. So I'd like to have the board consider a motion to set a public hearing for May 9th, 2016 at
7:55.
To consider a local law with regard to filming in the village of Suffern.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Motion passes.
Okay, even though this is under trustees, just to speed it up, can we have a motion to include the garbage fees in the taxes? In the tax bill, the village tax bill?
Do we have Okay, do we have a motion to include the garbage fees in the village taxes?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
We have discussion.
Doesn't that have to be done by a resolution?
Mike, do you have any feedback on the inclusion of the garbage fees into the village taxes?
Well, the history is that prior to them being separated, they were part of village taxes, but all village residents and businesses paid towards the pickup of curbside garbage. The condominiums and apartments that separately have what is known as the container district were still paying the village taxes, but also paying for their own separate container pickup from the condo associations and so forth. So in terms of the feedback for it, it's a matter of keeping them separate still, in terms of that they would be special assessments as opposed to garbage fees, unit fees. One of the issues, though, is that whether or not it can be really considered a tax, being that it's not on an ad valorem or assessed valuation basis, it's on a per unit basis. So it's a service based on a per unit basis of a home. The curbside garbage, for instance, is based on the fact that you either have a single, two, or three-family home. And so you're charged 1, 2, or 3 times the single rate. It's not based on ad valorem. So it would then become a question when if somebody were to be audited, whether or not we call it a tax on the bill, whether the IRS, for instance, would look at it and agree that that was indeed a tax. According to the IRS regulations, it is not a tax, even if you call it a tax. So that's the one major feedback that we've had on it. Again, it's not on an ad valorem basis. It would be no problem for us to incorporate it in the budget, very similar to the way we do it now, and it would just show up as on the person's bill as with the words tax as opposed to charge. But it doesn't change the concept.
Doesn't the town of Ramapo?
I'm sorry?
Doesn't the town of Ramapo include it in their tax bill? They don't have a separate tax bill for that?
I'm not sure how the town of Ramapo does it.
Right.
Unless they're including the...
Theirs is added water tax that they charge. It's not a separate fee. It's a small one.
Yeah, so
I know in Clarkstown, they have it on their tax bill.
Well, it used to be, when it was part of the village tax, it was incorporated as just another department within the village, and the dollar amount was levied as part of that tax that was needed. So exactly, it was at that time an ad valorem tax, but after the village separated it out as a service fee, it was no longer a tax because it's not on an ad valorem basis. It's on a unit of service basis.
But that doesn't change the status. It holds the same status now. It's not a tax, it's not a deduction now. So its status with the IRS hasn't changed by doing this. The only thing it does do is it eliminates the double billing. It should reduce the amount that we're going to re-levy. It reduces printing costs, labor costs to process it, postage.
Well, certainly, yes. In other words, like just including it on a single bill, a one-time charge at the beginning of the year with the taxes can certainly eliminate that second billing. And then the only issue you have there is somebody paying that bill once a year as opposed to paying 6 months now, 6 months later.
Well, the only thing is the way it's structured now, I mean, there's back and forth to this. It's going to be good for some people and not good for other people, but probably the bottom line is that 90-95% of the people in the village have a mortgage, and that fee now will be amortized in the mortgage over the course of a year rather than getting a bill week after Christmas or something for, $240. It just seems to be a more efficient and cost reduction.
It certainly would be a more efficient way of operating, and it would save money, because by having a one-time billing at the beginning of the year, and you're having one collection essentially for that period of time, now we're doing it double the amount of work, if you will, for the billing of that. It's the second time of the year, plus the collections in the second part of the year that you're doing. I mean, if the board wants, you may want to have some public input on it, just to see what the feeling is of the public in terms of if there is an issue with people making the payment once a year versus making it in 2 payments. A lot of people do have their taxes paid through escrow, and part of that is when the bill goes through, even the refuse charge is paid through the escrow.
Yeah. And
So it may not make a difference, as you're saying, to many people.
And that should reduce the amount of re-levying that we have to do, which does result in the cash shortages, because we wait 8 or 10 months for that money to be paid back by the county. So by doing this, we're going to, again, if 95% of the people have mortgages, the mortgage holder is going to pay the bill and pay it on time. So it should dramatically reduce the amount of re-levy we have to.
Okay,
Yeah, basically, no, but you get, for the curbside solid waste and the container, your tax bill at the beginning of the year does have a charge on it, so that's the first billing. And then there's a second separate billing for the other 6 months that goes out later on in the year. And of course, that, we have to print as many bills, essentially, almost as many bills that go out to curbside and container district people. So you're right. I mean, it would save a significant amount of time and effort and money, mailing and otherwise, paper, whatever, in order to do one billing at the time. I mean, it's not a bad idea.
but there's no difference in classification from the first bill to the second bill. So it's all billed out the same way.
That is correct.
For the collection.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
It's something to consider, yes.
All right. Okay, you know what, I'm going to poll the board. Mr. Morris?
Yes.
Mr. Hagen?
Yes.
Ms. Hertzman?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
And I vote yes, the motion passes. Thank you. Okay, this is it. I'm just going to keep it real short. We did start the downtown revitalization is coming, moving ahead. We started the Curbs and Sidewalks program. We're revamping Point Park at this time, and we have a couple of different avenues that we're exploring to enhance the village. Paving is underway, or will be underway shortly, restriping and new crosswalks, and we'll continue to provide updates. Have a good night. Motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Aye. Thank you.